Hello and welcome to another episode of the Uncommon Energy Podcast. On this week's episode, we've got so much to talk about: controversy at the World Championships, announcements at the World Championships, and then something that seems to have slipped through the cracks a little bit: the actual results and the meta from the World Championships. So much to talk about. We missed a week last week, but we're picking it right back up here this week. We, of course, in the mix there, we'll have Guess That Flavor Text. And then after everything's said and done, we're going to kick it over to our bonus episode over on the Patreon. Exclusive extra 30 minutes ish of content every single week from us over on Patreon, patreon.com/uncommon energy podcast. And as always, we got to hop right into it, man. My name is Chip Ritchie, joined here as always by my friend and co-host Azul GG. What's up, Azul? How we doing, man? How was your world's experience and vacation?
It was pretty good. I guess one more thing we can mention real fast is we've got another video up on the secondary YouTube channel that just went up.
Yeah.
Not an evolution series video. It's all right. I don't know how you'd want to describe it. Yeah, I don't know if you have a description in mind. It's a video
It's
based
just another video,
around another video based around the Pokemon Classic product. So after you're done listening to this, go check that out if you haven't already on Uncommon Energy on YouTube.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Hawaii was fun. I think it's like the most vacationing trip that I've done for a Pokemon tournament ever, so that was good. Hawaii is a good place to do that. Did some fishing, did some snorkeling. Overall, just kind of a good time. So yeah, I had a ton of fun in Hawaii. Tournament went so, but I wasn't like overly disappointed. My prep for the tournament was not like to the point where I could really be disappointed in myself, to be honest. Like, you're not gonna put the time and effort into like prepare for the tournament. It's hard to be disappointed with your results um, overall. But I got to the winning in on day one. Did play Snorlax Stall with the squad, which was like a fine play. We teched for Lugia. I'll probably put a video out on my YouTube channel just going. I talked about my run on my stream earlier today. I'll probably like cut that up and put that over on the YouTube channel. So if people want to listen to my thoughts on the list we played, why we played some of the stuff we played, and then how my run went overall. You can check that out on my YouTube channel. It'll be over there. It'll be up there eventually.
Mhm.
But yeah, mediocre run, lost the winning in. Had a ton of fun though with the vacation. Hawaii in general, it's super nice. I've said this many times. I'll say it again. I think it's a great location for the World Championships for how much it's evolved and what it's become. And I think with our next couple locations coming up, Pokemon agrees. And besides that, super dope. The setup was super dope there as well. I didn't actually go to like any of the. I never went to the Pokemon Center. I didn't go to like the World's Museum either. I was in the main hall, and that was basically it. But it was like pretty spacious. There wasn't. It was decently crowded day one in the Masters TCG area, but not like overwhelmingly so. More than like other tournaments. So yeah, good time overall. How about you, Chip? How was the casting?
Yeah, World's experience for me was pretty sweet to get to cast, which was definitely a lot of fun. I also got to do a panel, which was pretty cool. I didn't get to talk about that before the panel on the podcast because they hadn't like officially announced it yet. So, but and it was also they held it unfortunately during the tournament day one. So
Mm.
I think attendance was a bit lower than they would have liked, and I think that the fact that it was first off, it was kind of secluded in where it happened at Worlds.
Where was that area? Because there was
Yeah, it was, like,
definitely
upstairs. They had, like, the map of it all on the website, but even if you look at the map, it's, like, secluded from where all the other stuff was happening,
yeah.
where the, like, World's Museum was, the Pokemon Center was up on the floor above it. But I mean, it was cool to be a part of. I enjoyed doing the panel. It was a panel about casting and kind of myself and then a few of the other casters like individual journeys into casting and what it's like to be a Pokemon caster. I don't think they recorded it, which I definitely wish they would have. I think it's the type of thing that people are kind of interested in. It might have been something they could have posted on the YouTube channel after the fact for people to watch who didn't get to watch it, but maybe that'll be something they can do for next time. They did a few panels as well. This is kind of the first year they're like introduced that concept to Worlds. Just another thing it feels like that they're doing to like make an effort towards the uh whole Worlds experience, right? Of it being more of like a big event as opposed to just a
They did
tournament, right?
Did they do panels at all last year, or is this like
I
a first? This is the first
I'm
time for
pretty
this?
sure this is a first time thing. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's a first thing. Yeah, and they posted, let me see.
Because I think the first thing I heard about this was Wolfie tweeted out, "If I'm not in the finals or something, I'm doing a panel on Sunday or
Yeah.
something." I think he was part of
Yeah.
a panel on Sunday, so that's the first I heard about them. I didn't see any advertisement in the general area, I wanna say, like, in the play area about them or, like so, yeah, I didn't know where to go. I mean, it probably isn't that hard to find, but, I think it's something that
But yeah, it happened
now
at 3 p.m. on Friday, you know?
yeah.
People were pretty busy, I think, at 3 p.m. on Friday.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. But it's like something that will probably I assume they'll be doing this at the future ones, so it'll gain more traction and people will be more aware of them happening at future worlds.
Yeah. I also got to do some of the other cool things you mentioned, like I went and checked out the World's Museum, which was pretty cool. I think it was the first time they've done that. Sounds like it might be something they do again in the future. Um, I checked out the TCG Pocket setup, which was something I was excited to do, and then immediately disappointed when I realized all you could do was open up a pack.
Is that literally all that's
Yeah, it was
literally
just
do
a
they have
pack opening
any
simulator. There was no gameplay, no interface clicking around. But it was, it was still kind of nice to get a little firsthand look, but I was really hoping to get to, like, play a demo game or something.
yeah, because I was wondering what it was gonna be or what I'm still curious as what the whole product is gonna be like. Like it can you battle in it? Like, is that even like a thing?
There are battles. I don't know if it's
Okay.
PvP.
There are battles.
There are battles. Yeah, you
Yeah, there
build decks, so that these are all things that will happen, and we'll talk a little bit more about Pocket a little later on. But yeah, overall, Worlds great experience. Big thanks to Pokemon for bringing me out to do the casting. Was paired up with Pablo, had a good time. Love casting with Pablo, and yeah, we I think overall saw some really great games on stream throughout the course of the weekend. And then immediately, we missed last week, right? Azul was still staying in vacation in Hawaii. We've got the podcast this week, and then this weekend is Stellar Crown pre-releases. So, like, the new
yeah.
set is basically here. It comes out the weekend of Baltimore Regionals. Will not be legal at Baltimore Regionals, but will be legal shortly thereafter.
It
And
makes
it
it feel
definitely
like
seems like a set that's going to mix things up quite a bit. I'm going to try to go to a pre-release this weekend though, because I haven't played a pre-release in a while. I do enjoy doing those. It's a nice little fun way to enjoy the game. So I'm going to try to hit one up if I can this weekend.
yeah, I didn't even realize that until today that they're coming up this weekend. But it makes everything feel like it's so poorly timed. Like Shrouded Fable is legal for 2 tournaments, like outside of Japan, and then it just almost feels like Baltimore should just be the first Stellar Crown
Yeah, World should
tournament,
have been
but
its own
it's
unique
not.
format.
I don't know. It just everything feels nothing feels like in sync. Everything feels like slightly out of sync. Like Worlds is its like not completely own unique format, but and I'm not sure how I feel about that as well. I actually put out that tweet like before Worlds. I was just curious what people thought about that. Like, should Worlds be its own unique format, or the beginning of a format, or the continuation of the NAIC format? Which I think that is the worst of the three. I think it should either be its own unique format, which we don't have with this one because Baltimore will be played in this format, or it should be the beginning of the new format, which I guess this is, but it's only this for one tournament. And for anyone who's curious what like the own unique format would look like, it would be like 2018 Worlds when Robin Schultz won, where that format was only played at the World Championships. Like the new set came out, Worlds happened, and then rotation happened immediately after Worlds.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, what we had at
I will say I do kind
Worlds
of
was nice.
miss that a little bit because that made Worlds feel like the culmination of the year, right? Where it's
Yeah,
like all these sets had been building up throughout the season, and then Worlds happened, and then rotation happens right after Worlds. Now we've got the rotation in the middle of the season. I do think I do personally miss that a little bit because Worlds, like I said, feels like a culmination of the whole season, right?
yeah,
All the all stars of the season, the year get to pop up, and I did like whenever a new set came out right before Worlds. I thought that was cool too, because it's like what new mix gets thrown into the Worlds format.
yeah.
Um,
And that's what we had this time around, and it was like a decently
right,
impactful.
right, but I'm talking about like with the rotation kind of in the middle of the year, right?
Oh, okay, yeah, 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 sure, sure.
Uh, but I do think that the system they have currently is probably slightly better because previously when rotation was after Worlds, it would be kind of odd because people would tune in, check out the World Championships, and it's like, okay, I want to get involved in the game. None of the decks that you just watched play out on stream are nearly as good, or they're, the meta is completely different than it was of what you watched on the broadcast, right?
Yeah.
Because the rotation happened immediately after. And then also, dude, the community, there was like so many people who around like I don't know, like February, March would just stop playing because they didn't like whatever the format was, and they were like, "I'm waiting till rotation." And do you remember those like comments of like waiting for rotation and stuff
Yeah.
like that? I feel like it doesn't happen nearly as bad with the new system where we rotate in the middle of the season compared to what we had done previously.
Yeah, definitely. People will just kind of wait for the rotation to happen, but that's what makes things different. And yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it's a little bit weird now because the new set comes out so quickly, right? Like Stellar Crown comes out. It would have been nice if Stellar Crown came out before Worlds, and then people going to Baltimore or the first couple regionals until the next set. Those were Stellar Crown legal, right? But now we have like yeah, and I've seen a decent amount of people make that comment of like, oh, I got into the game because I watched the stream of the Worlds, right? Like I've
Yeah.
seen that
I mean, the
an amount of
most
times.
eyes in the game are like on the world championships, right?
Yeah, and I think actually Stefan replied to my tweet with literally like that. Like he thinks the best format that makes sense is the beginning of a new format because it leads to people who are getting into the game because of Worlds be able to like play with what they've seen, which it can kind of do with this one, but not really because the new set is literally comes out in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fine whenever because it's like the new set comes out and it does change things, but it's like an addition to what existed at Worlds, right? Whereas whenever there was a
Sure.
rotation right after Worlds, it's like, okay, here's what you see at Worlds. Now 30% of the card pool is gone.
Yeah, you might just not be able to use what you wanted to play with,
Like
right?
imagine if after Worlds last year, Battle VIP Pass rotated immediately after Worlds, right?
Yeah. I don't think anyone would have been complaining about.
Well, no. But like if you're a new person trying to get into the game, it's like
Yeah,
the
of
way the
course, yeah.
game is played is different now.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, and I'm assuming they're gonna follow like this format moving forward. It definitely is nice to have something added though, unlike in like Japan last year, where it was the same exact format as NAIC. That was kind of boring. I didn't really think about it that much until I thought of this world's more recently, where I was like, yeah, last year's worlds was just kind of boring because it literally nothing changed.
Yeah, there was nothing to
So
like really spice it up.
even if it's just a small set release like this, like Shroud of Fable or like the Pokemon Go set from the year before that at London, the year before Japan in London. But ideally, a major set release I think would be better. And it would also set the tone for the new season a little bit better as well. And for the same thing, new players getting involved in the game because of watching Worlds. They're going into a bigger stretch of time working with what they just immediately picked up after Worlds. Um, but yeah, let's go ahead. Let's jump into it. The biggest talk of the World Championships was Ian Robb.
Yeah, perhaps the most controversial world championships of all time. Yeah, we'll get into the results of the tournament later on in this episode. We are going to start off by kind of talking about some of the controversies. And the first one definitely is Ian Robb's instance. So, for those who are unaware, somehow, it's been a couple weeks at this point. So, if you're involved in the space, you've probably seen something about this. Ian Robb played against Fernando Cifuentes in top eight on stream at Worlds. At the conclusion of that top eight match, Ian Robb had won 2-0, and he had also won extremely convincingly. Those games were not very close. Ian beat Fernando handily and maybe a little too handily because immediately after, Ian does hit the audience. He looks out to the crowd and just gets a little too excited, a little too into it, and does some
Questionable,
motion that, if you're watching on YouTube, you're seeing it play out right now. We're not going to stick around and watch it though.
questionable gestures from Ian,
And
which
then
which
just
did
following,
lead to uh, a match loss given to him in that match, the
yes.
top 8 match, which meant that Fernando proceeded to play against Jesse in top 4.
Yeah.
Um, I think
So,
I was gonna say, I just want to say this, and we could I don't know, you might want to give your opinion on this. I think the community has I want to say something like mildly insulting, but I can't think of like a good word. They've come to their senses and realized that what Ian did was wrong. And I think Ian's silence on the whole topic means he knows what he did was wrong, and he knows what he did. The people who were trying to initially defend Ian by saying the gesture he made was fist pumping or die rolling, I think it's pretty obvious it's not if you just watch it. And then the fact that Ian hasn't said anything, um, it's yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I don't think there's anything to like kind of talk about with that. And I think we can all pretty much probably most of us can come together and be like, yeah, Ian probably should get some kind of penalty for doing something like that on stream. The question I think that has, and I think a reasonable question. This is the only reasonable question from this whole situation because the people who are asking those other questions, I don't know why you'd ever ask those questions. It's pretty obvious what's going on here. Is when and what should the penalty be and when should it be applied? Because it was a match loss given in top eight after Ian had 2-0'd Fernando, but before the match slip was signed. So I don't know if you want to talk on any of the other stuff or if we're just kind of in agreement on that. I don't know if you had a different take on
Yeah, I mean,
the
I was sitting backstage watching this game, in our green room, and I literally Ian leaned back, did his thing, and I immediately turned to the person next to me and said, "He's going to get a penalty for that." And sure enough, he did get a penalty for that. Now, whether I think another discussion could be, and you may have kind of said this as well, but like, should there even have been a penalty? There's been a couple instances over the years, specifically at these larger scale tournaments, where a player has done something on stage that led to them receiving some form of punishment.
yeah,
Um, there was a player who was allegedly, I mean, no bans and stuff have public, but I think this has been talked about on public forums before. I think it was 2010 or 2011 World Championships, threw up a hand signal on stage and then got banned for a year. Um, there was an instance at the 2016 World Championships where in top four of the VG tournaments, the player who won in top four shot the bird to the crowd after he won because they were booing him. And then
yeah.
I don't think, got a penalty. I don't believe he got a penalty for that. I don't remember for sure. And then most
Maybe
recently
wasn't.
as well, the EUIC champion in his winner's interview on stage in VG this year said that he was, quote, you know, SHI, what, bricks about
Uh,
his nerves leading up to the final match. Uh Said that on stream and it went out broadcasted, right? I don't think he got any sort of penalty for that.
maybe got like a warning, but like no like
But the
match
tournament's
loss,
already
game
over.
loss.
He's
Oh, that
won
was
the
the
event.
finals. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It was in his winner's interview after the finals had happened, right?
Yeah, but that's like so much more of a that's like so much different, right? Because it's just like it's not something like generally provocative. Is that the word I want to use? Or like it's not against towards someone or against someone. It's just like you in the moment being nervous, just
Sure.
kind of saying what's on your mind, right? So it's a lot more
Sure.
innocent of a act of an action in that one specifically. The flipping off the crowd one is maybe the closest one in comparison, but that's
Yeah.
back in 2016. And one thing with that as well, um, is like people will bring up the idea of like, for consistency's sake, why would the person back in 2016 not receive the same penalty that Ian received today? That was 8 years ago. Like, if
Yeah.
if Pokemon has updated their standards over 8 years, I don't think anyone should be mad about that. It's just like moving forward after Ian's situation is when you'd want to see the consistency. Like Pokemon has grown so much in the last 2 years. This
Yeah.
is like a whole new situation for them to be tackling in potentially a different way. So
So, and then you brought up something as well about the match slip. So, I mean, I don't think we know the exact details of the match slip. You can see, I think the end of game stuff has been removed from the VOD. So I'm not sure if you can go back and watch it
yeah,
or not, but you can see Ian sign the slip. So at least that part of the slip, his signature was done. Now, whether or not the winner was circled, whether or not Fernando had signed it just yet before someone swooped in and took it. I mean, Ian got interviewed on stage, right? He was the winner.
yeah.
Um,
Well,
you know,
in the full clip, he signs it after he does the gesture. So he goes, wins the game,
yes.
gesture, sign slip. I assume both players sign it at that point, and winner
Yeah,
is
but I mean,
circled.
we don't know, like, maybe a judge grabs it before Fernando signs it, right?
Oh, sure. I guess I don't know. Yeah, I guess we maybe don't know
Or
for sure.
the result of the slip had not been signed, right? Like the no one had been circled as a winner just yet. It's not a completed
Sure.
match slip. But everything that, there is in the rule book about match slips does say once a match slip has been signed, that result is considered final. It is then the responsibility of the winner of the match to turn the slip in as directed by the organizer. This other section, once a match has been recorded on a signed slip, that result is considered final and cannot be changed.
So actually, all right. So there's this actually really good video that someone made. Let me find their channel so I can give them full credit. And I watched this earlier on my stream. Let me see if I can find it here. Let me see. Control. Wait, so it's on YouTube by a YouTuber named Control Players Unite.
Okay.
Control Players Unite. And they very much go in depth over every like procedure and ruling that should be applied to the situation, to Ian's situation. And I think the biggest thing that comes up is they bring up, and where's the video? Did you find it?
Is it a rules analysis of the Ian Robb controversy at Worlds?
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. Um, and if you watch this video, they basically break down and lay out every single rule that was uh, brought forward for this situation for Ian. And basically, it looks like Pokemon ruled this by their book. Like
Yeah.
with everything, if you apply every rule possible that Pokemon has in the rules book, in the manual, and if you're questioning whether what I'm saying is correct or not, just go watch their video because they lay it all out really, really well. It's actually really interesting and cool to see a video like this being made for the Pokemon TCG. Um, but yeah, basically, Pokemon just followed their own rules, and which led them to DQ or give Ian a match loss in top 8 instead of top 4, despite having won 2 games of 2 games in the match. Having done the gesture before the slip was signed would mean that the gesture is being applied to the potential of the top 8 match, and the severity of the punishment that should be applied for that being a match loss means it should be applied to top 8 and not top 4,
Yeah.
meaning that
Well,
go ahead.
there's also this that has that I didn't notice. I mean, I just scrubbed through really quickly in that video. I didn't
Yeah.
notice this being brought up. I saw someone else point this out on Twitter in the penalty application section of the rule book, how to apply and assess penalties. There's a section for game loss, a section for match loss, and then there's a section for disqualification. Now, Ian was not disqualified. I did see a lot of people saying that on Twitter. He
Yeah.
was not disqualified. He did receive a match loss in top 8, so that means he will get all his top 8 prizing still. Um, but under disqualification, there's this other bullet about application for single elimination. Now, no other section of the applications has anything about single elimination, but under disqualification for single elimination, it does say during single elimination rounds, players receiving a disqualification will also receive a match loss for their most recent single elimination match. And then within this, if the player is disqualified while their single elimination match is still ongoing, losses are applied to the current round. That was obviously not the case. But if a player is disqualified during single elimination rounds where they are not participating, so between rounds, if they're issued the disqualification in an ongoing match, the losses are applied to the most recently completed round, and the opponent from that match will advance if eligible. So that seems like most likely what was referenced with this ruling. Even if so you can look at it two ways, and both ways lead to this result, right? Either they're like, okay, this happened before the match slip is signed. Ian does this thing, he's going to receive a match loss. Or it's like, he's won the game, they sign the slip, the match is final, Ian does his thing, and okay, now we're going to give him a match loss. We don't have anything under application for single elimination in the rule book, but there's this disqualification thing we can reference, which does bring up, the match loss situation. If they're not participating in an ongoing match, which Ian wouldn't have been, losses are applied to the most recently completed round, and the opponent from that match will advance, which is exactly what happened. Fernando advances to top four.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's like the biggest thing that people have a problem with right now is the fact that Fernando lost, but then because of Ian's match loss, it was applied in top 8, which means Fernando got to go and play in top 4, which like prior to this, and I'm still kind of in between to be honest, but prior to this situation at World specifically, I was always the a fan of the mindset of we should try and play as many matches of Pokemon as possible. So like if something happens and a player can no longer play, the other player should advance. I think the best example of this of where it should have happened but didn't happen was back in LAIC 2018,
Mm,
where Daniel Altavilla won, but his finals opponent was DQ'd the night before they played on Sunday, which led to there not being a finals, and Daniel was just awarded the win. But I don't see why. Now in that situation it was different because there was a DQ for cheating, so that's a little bit different. So, but I don't see why like the Daniels supposed to be finals opponent's opponent from top four, which I believe was Galaz, shouldn't have played against Daniel in the finals there. And I don't think like anything like that ever jeopardizes the integrity of the tournament, right? Because like someone was caught cheating, they were DQ'd. Anyone who we could possibly, whenever we could like fairly easily be like, oh wait, well we DQ'd them, and maybe we should just have their
yeah.
top four opponent move on, even though they had the top four opponent had been beaten. They had been beaten by someone who was cheating in the tournament. At that point, it feels like fair to progress the person who had been beaten in the previous round of single elimination forward. Now this is different because there's no cheating involved, but
But
this
you're
does
right.
kind of
There's no
maximize for
cheating
most Pokemon.
there's no cheating involved, right? But a penalty is assessed in the same way. So, like, do you need to have should there be match loss for cheating and then match loss for unsportsmanlike conduct? Which this is what this falls under, is unsportsmanlike conduct. That's what was said.
Yeah,
Should they be separated? Maybe, but I don't think it's necessarily, uh I think that, the way they handled it was by the rule book. I do think that it just is going to feel I think part of what makes this feel bad is, like you said, Ian did not get disqualified for cheating. And I also felt really bad for Ian because Ian's a player that, I think is very respected in the North America region and really the world as well. He's one of the best players in the game. Um, I mean, he has sneakily won 5 regional championships, which I think is something that, like, not a lot of people are totally aware of, right?
yeah,
Um, he is definitely one of the top players in the game. He is someone who I have never heard a bad story about as far as rule sharking, as far as slow play, as far as, trying to bend the rules to his advantage, cheating. I've heard nothing, no stories about that for Ian at all. I've played against Ian in a tournament. He's a, super kind, friendly opponent. We had a good, clean match. And so, I mean, that does make me feel I think that's part of why this feels so bad, to no fault of Fernando, of course, right? Fernando has done nothing wrong in this situation, right? And anyone in Fernando's shoes would obviously do the literal exact same thing, right? Where
yeah,
you lose in Worlds and it's like you're given this gift, this opportunity to continue on and advance. But I think, like, I think that if you are, giving someone a match loss for something that happened in a game in single elimination, whether it was for cheating or for, let's even say, a gameplay error, right? Let's say there's a board state that was broken, a player wins a game that they shouldn't have, it's not caught immediately, they're signing the slip, they're packing things up. All of a sudden, oh, this happened on camera, we've caught it, we're stopping the game. Then they have to issue the match loss or whatever it is because of previous penalties, maybe, like, who knows what it is, right? And then they follow the same rule, they promote someone forward, or whether it's for, unsportsmanlike conduct, which is what it was in this instance. I think, like, it is fine that if this because, like, I would want someone to be promoted, from top 8 to top 4 in the instance of someone being DQ'd for cheating, in the instance of someone receiving a match loss for, broken game state, right? I would want someone to be able to be promoted, right? So I think if
yeah,
I want that to happen in those instances, we should equally want it to happen the way it happened in this instance. But there's no way to help that it's just not going to feel as right. There's no way for it to feel perfectly right because regardless, either, in top 4, Jesse Parker is going to get to move on to the finals, having to play nobody in top 4, right?
yeah.
Or Fernando, who lost, is going to get a chance to continue on in the tournament. There's no perfect solution here.
Yeah, for sure. I think one thing I take away from this, like thinking about it more, is I'm not a huge fan of like the match slips being like some end all be all. Like they should just add some nuance to it. Like if it feels like a match needs to be corrected for whatever reason, then even if a match slip has been signed, go back and correct it. Which I think they do that in instances. But I don't know. I feel like match slips are always like put as this like and like there's nothing that can change them, right? Like it is the final say of everything. But like, yeah, if you catch a like if there's something on stream that happens that should lead to a different result, then just like make the other result happen. do what just makes the most sense for the situation. Um, and I had one more thing I was gonna say about the ENT. Oh yeah, with the yeah, I'm still a little bit hung up. I'm not too sure how I feel about it overall, but I think if we like pushed it to an extreme, let's say that Ian had stood up after he won 2-0, shouted at his opponent, and then like flipped them off
Yeah,
on
right.
camera. He would definitely be DQ'd,
Right, right.
but I think we'd feel a little bit different if we'd feel a little bit different of whether or not Fernando should have advance, right? So like obviously Ian's thing
It
is
would
like
be
not
easier to have, like, compassion and understanding for Fernando. Like, and I don't think anyone doesn't have
yeah.
understanding of Fernando's point of view in this, but
This one's a little bit different because like Ian's thing is not against his opponent at all. It's kind of just more like a a stupid celebration thing. He's definitely looking out in the crowd, so I'm sure he made eye contact with one of his friends or something like that, and they were just having like a moment. But
Buddy, if you ever
I
see
mean,
me in the crowd after you do something on stage, we don't need a moment, okay? No moments necessary.
having a moment, but like I'm still a little bit hung up on it whether or not it feels like the match law should happen there and the opponent should advance or not. I'm kind of down for the idea of just playing as much Pokemon as possible still. And like I said, if you take it to an extreme, if you push a little bit further, it feels like there maybe is a line where at some point the match law, like I think more people would agree, the match loss probably should lead to the opponent advancing.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe people will stay to it though, and be like, as long as cheating's not involved, because I think we'd all agree if cheating was involved, then the opponent should always advance, right?
yeah.
If they can, like if the opponent's still in the venue, they can be contacted, brought back to play the next match. The round hasn't started yet. Bring them back and have them play the round. Um, yeah, but for things like this, it's a little bit more up in the air. I definitely understand both sides for sure, especially after I watched Mahone's video on it as well. So I was a little bit more one sided where I was like, oh, I think Fernando should just advance. But after hearing more opinions, Mahone's video, stuff like that, definitely a little bit more up in the air. But I think one thing's for sure, Pokemon was consistent with their ruling. They just followed their rule book, which led them to this conclusion, which means they are being consistent. They're consistently following their rules, and you can't really be mad at them for that. But you can still be like, I think the rules should be changed,
Sure,
right? Which
definitely.
is maybe something, which is like the thing that maybe people should be actually advocating for moving on from here on out is a change in the rules. I don't know which one of these rules that would have to change to make that happen. I think it would be like what you said, right? There should be a rule for unsportsmanlike content and a rule for cheating. If there's cheating involved, there should be an advance of players consistently as often as possible. If it's unsportsmanlike conduct and the match has been concluded, advancement of players. Although once again, though, it is weird. Should we really? But see, but now you think about that, like, should we advance Ian after he did something like that? Why should Ian ever be advanced there? Why should he
Right.
be allowed to advance the top four?
Because that is a big part of this as well, because the pricing differential between top 8 and top 4 is massive. Like, cannot be overstated. Massive difference. The smallest part is the pricing increase, right? Top 8 of Worlds gets $15,000, top 4 gets $20,000. That's $5,000. That's a heck of a lot of money. But top 4 of Worlds, a few other things that top 4 gets that top 8 does not. Top 4 gets an invite back to the World Championships next year. That's a pretty nice boost and a nice bonus. I believe a travel award as well to the World Championships. Um,
I didn't get one, so I hope not.
well, you
I don't
got
know if
one the other way, right?
oh, can you only get one?
I don't you can't double dip on your travel awards.
I don't know if you get one for top top 4 in worlds. That's
You
what
may
someone
not.
told me
I
as
think
well.
you do, but you may not. You may not.
Okay.
Um,
All I
you
know is I
get
didn't get one, but I
the
guess that makes sense.
you get the Pikachu trophy, right? Which is a big deal. You see Azul has his very proudly displayed back behind him. It's probably the thing that most people, outside of the tournament finish would like want to have the most, right? To commemorate it. You also get the trophy card, the number 4, number 3 trainer card, which in of itself is worth quite a bit of money, more than you earn for getting top 4 at the World Championships. Probably double
Yeah.
what you get for getting top 4 at the World Championships.
Yeah, those things are worth a lot. Um,
So, I mean, it's just a massive difference. So do you want to move someone forward in the tournament? Like, and it's so because like this, like you give a good example, right? If you wanted to have the penalty changed, right, and just have this be like unsporting conduct, right? What Ian did, nothing with his opponent. unsporting conduct would fall under the same category as someone screaming at their opponent and flipping them off, right? Those
Yeah.
are both unsporting conduct things, but one feels way, way worse than the other. You definitely wouldn't
Yeah.
want to promote the person who screamed at their opponent, right? But
And if it
you equally
was
not want to promote the person who, leaned back and did what Ian did.
Yeah, and I guess at one point, like, if it was a DQ, like, if it in my opinion, if it's ever a DQ, Fernando should always be advanced. Like, if
Sure.
it's ever a DQ, I feel like Fernando should always be
And that
advanced.
is what the rule book specifically does state for the disqualification.
That there should always be an advancement.
Yes.
Yeah, so I agree with that for sure. If there ever is a disqualification, I feel like there should always be an advancement of the player. Kind of irrelevant of what led to the DQ. And like some people are bringing up like I don't know, the integrity of the tournament to an extent, like how it feels weird. I guess I can understand how it feels a little weird, but like, what if like a player who would have won a tournament like stubbed or broke their foot on the way to the tournament and they couldn't show up to the tournament? I don't know. Maybe that's like a bad example, but like, there's so many little like none of those things matter. Like saying like um, well, now all of a sudden Jesse has to play a match that he didn't have to play. It's like, so what? Like, I don't. Those are such poor arguments as to like why this is worse than it actually is. The fact that Fernando, who did lose in top eight, now gets to play in top four. It's like, okay, so what? You still like just beat him then? Like, there's not like
Yeah.
those feel like really weird and bad excuses or reasons. I can understand how it's a kind of a feels bad. I can like sympathize with or empathize with the people
Yeah.
on that level, but saying like that
Especially
like makes it that much more extremely worse. I don't really get because like the whole tournament leading up to that point is random and who you play against in the first rounds of the tournament and following rounds of the tournament anyways. Like it's not like yeah, it's just like that's like not a huge thing for me personally where I look at that I'm like, "Oh yeah, like because now Jesse has to play this opponent he wasn't supposed to play um that could have changed the tournament." It's like, yeah, it could have, but like maybe it doesn't. Like I don't know, it just doesn't matter. Like for everyone else around it it doesn't matter. The only people who should feel like they truly got affected by it are Fernando and Ian because now Ian gets a match loss and now Fernando gets to play on. So now Fernando just gets to play more Pokemon and Ian gets to play less Pokemon. And for everyone else, it's just like if you still get to play, then whoever sits down across from you, you got to play against them.
I was backstage after the top 4 match finished, and whenever Jesse and Fernando were coming off the stage, I congratulated Fernando, and I also congratulated Jesse, and I was like, "Yeah, sick run, man. Sorry that, it gets cut short here." Uh, and his reaction, some people, he just lost top 4 of Worlds, right? He lost his chance to play in the finals. And Jesse I was like, "Yeah, so sorry, man, but sick run." And he was like, "Oh, it's okay, man. I beat him in Swiss, so it makes, he had to get his revenge here." Like that's what Jesse's reaction was. Just a genuine, like, good-hearted dude. So that was kind of a cool moment there. He was not, at least in that moment, moments after the match finished, he was not sitting there dwelling on the fact of I just had to play against someone I wasn't supposed to play against, right?
Like that's such a weird. That's like not a competitor mentality. So like I feel like some people who are bringing this up, like it's just not. I don't know. To me, that's just not a competitor's mentality to like dwell on. Oh, my opponent shouldn't be here, right? It's like, well, they are now. Just beat them, right? If you can't beat them, all right, you go home today, but you have another chance next time. It just feels like it's like just not a competitor's mentality to view it or think about it that way. So I don't think it like uh degrades the tournament to the extent that people are making it kind of out to seem or to be. And the more we kind of even talk through it here, I'm still kind of going back to what the way I felt before Worlds, before any of this happened, which is just like, yeah, if we can play more games of Pokemon, we should play more games of Pokemon. In the result of people being, match losses, DQs, whatever. If we can advance someone else, then go ahead and advance someone else.
Anything else you want to say about Ian's situation?
No, and I think also on the inside, I think he knows he messed up, and like, you know, he's hopefully continues to play next season and push through, and he'll have another chance if he keeps at it. So
It
it'd be
does
cool
feel
to
real
see
bad,
him.
man, because like Worlds is a tough tournament and you only get so many chances, right?
Yep.
It does feel bad for one of them to, I mean, yeah, I mean, this is definitely the biggest impact for sure is on Ian here because he had an opportunity to complete every Pokemon player's dream and then due to his own mistake, that's cut short.
Yep. Yep. And I think he knows it too. Like I said, like I think his I guess like silence on the matter, I think speaks volumes to that. Like he understands he messed up, and he just has to kind of take his L and go next.
Yeah. It was not the only moment of controversy from Worlds this year. There was also, I guess, first off, I didn't, we didn't link this video, but there was a player who was literally
Oh yeah,
disqualified from the tournament mid-event.
this one was
Um,
funny.
I don't see if you can find it real quick while I'm kind of talking through what
Oh man.
happened. But oh, I
Um,
think you retweeted it.
okay,
I
or
think you
maybe
did.
didn't.
I'll find it real quick. But basically, in one of the early rounds of the tournament, I think it was round 3 or 4. This video started kind of circulating of this player palming a card extremely blatantly during one of the Swiss rounds. You see him pick up the discard pile here, back card of the discard pile makes his way into his hand. He puts his hand in his lap for a moment, and then that card, you can see it move pretty clearly here from the lap into his actual hand. Pretty clear cut case of palming a card.
Yep. Yeah. Pretty cut and dry. I actually will like something I actually like to think about, or something that I've like been saying recently. That like these are the kind of things that the community should be focused on and making sure it gets a lot of like get it out there, and make sure people know about it. And the word on the street is that the player is banned, uh,
Allegedly.
allegedly banned for a year, I believe. Which, if that is the case, I don't know. This feels like a perma ban situation to me, but
Yeah.
I'm down for people to do their time, and if they want to come back after that, we'll see. So, like, I'm not against that idea, to be honest.
Yeah. I think I
Um,
would understand if this happened to a junior or senior, right? They did this, they're young. It's a mistake. You can make it a teaching opportunity. If you're competing in the Masters division and you do something like this, I think a permanent ban from the game is a totally fair and a just punishment for this crime, for this action, right?
yeah,
That's my
yeah,
opinion.
I think so as well. I think at a certain point, it's probably best for you to like not participate in the Pokemon TCG anymore. And I think that's how I would rule this. But yeah, the word on the street is it is a year. And if that's what it is, like, so be it. And just, they'll come back in a year and we'll go from there, I guess. Well, if they come back in a year, I guess we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Um, one thing I will kind of say with this though is another player who was at the World Championships who did participate,
Got
who
top 32,
who got top 32, Eder. I don't know how to pronounce the last name.
Urillo.
Yarillo got top 32. Um, there was a video that I covered pretty extensively from the Bogota special event, not this
Mhm.
season, but last season or the season before that. No, it's not this season, but last season,
Yep.
where they were stacking their deck pretty blatantly. So it was actually pretty surprising, I think, overall, that they did not receive
It's
any
the
type of
most
ban.
popular video on your YouTube channel.
Yeah, they didn't receive any type of ban going into this season, at least as far as I'm aware. No word on the street about a ban happening. Um, but yeah, pretty blatant stacking happened at the Bogota special event. And what do I want to say with that? But at this point, like this one's kind of like, I mean, the community like brings this one up brings up at her over and over and over again. It's just kind of like tired at this point. I feel like we should focus our energy on like stuff like the other thing that happened at Worlds and be like, make sure that gets the attention it needs. Not that like because like nothing's gonna come of bringing up Eder's name over and over and over again. Like nothing comes of that ever. So like I don't know. I just feel like we can move on. I mean, be wary, know the name, but
If something
um,
was gonna happen, it would have happened.
yeah, they're like Eder is not receiving any kind of ban at this point anymore. It's over. Like it's done. Happened over a season ago now, season and a half ago now. Like, yeah, that's it. That's all. Because people bring it up to me all the time, and I'm just like, yeah, I saw Eder played at Worlds and got to right through. Like, what do you want me to say? Like this has happened. This happened a year and a half ago. Like nothing is happening. Who cares? Like, let's move on. And I'm not saying I don't want. I mean, if Pokemon came out tomorrow and they gave Eder like a year ban or a perma ban, I wouldn't be against it. But I mean, it's
Yeah.
over at this point. It's done.
Yeah. At this point, what's gonna happen is gonna happen.
Yep.
And then I think kind of the final thing we wanted to talk about around like controversies at Worlds was a situation around Isaiah Bradner. So on stream, there's this clip posted by TC Evolutions, went pretty viral, seen by a lot of people. 223,000 views, timing out Isaiah's turn, 5 minutes between the draw and finishing the attack. And Isaiah does take quite a long time with a lot of the actions here on this turn, and he did receive a warning for pace of play at the conclusion of this turn. Now, on the stream, Isaiah did also appeal that decision of the warning, which is his right to do. Um, and, it's to a competitor's benefit to appeal a ruling that they don't believe is warranted, even if it is just a warning, because a warning in Swiss round nine can lead to a multi prize penalty in top eight potentially, right?
Yeah. And we went through the video before we started the show. So it was like 7 actions in 5 minutes. I think the warning was definitely warranted, for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
And 7 actions in 5 minutes equates to about one action per 42 seconds. I think we said 42, 48 seconds.
yeah, and counting, like, just so people understand, like, the recommended amount of time between actions is, like, 15 seconds, but it's like, it doesn't need to strictly be 15 seconds or less. If you take 30 seconds on, like, a big turn or a big situation, that's fine. Like, it's 100% fine. Even
Yep.
more than that, like, even, like, 40 seconds maybe. Like, if you're playing at a reasonable pace to play the whole game, and then you have to, like, stop and think for a little bit longer for, like, some big moment in a game, that's not against the rules.
And at this
Um,
point in the game, Isaiah is attempting to set up checkmate, right? He goes for
yeah,
this kind of cool play we hadn't seen yet on the stream. We hadn't really thought about through the Reggie Drago mirror of taking multiple prizes on multiple two prize Pokemon in a single turn with Curum's attack. Usually, Curum reserved as an attacker against things like, Lost Box and Gardevoir actually becomes pretty useful when your opponent has things like Pheasantipity EX and Mew EX on their bench because you can take four prizes with two attacks pretty easily in that way.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, from everything that I could see from this, the warning was definitely warranted, and then we even watched, like, the beginning of the next turn from Isaiah,
Yeah.
and, yeah, he probably shoulda got a double prize penalty. Like,
Yeah,
how
the
long did
next turn, he doesn't make an action for, like, the first, 60 seconds of the turn. He is
a little
thinking through
while.
and planning his turn. I even said this on the broadcast because I was commentating this game. I think the thing I said almost exactly was, "If I was Isaiah and I just got a warning for pace of play, I would not be taking this long to make my decision." Like, I would be playing much, much quicker. Now, he is having to think through a lot here, and he needs to play it out perfectly because he can win the game this turn, and you wanna be extra careful, extra sure in these spots that you're making it the right play, the right decision. Um, and I don't think Isaiah in this turn is by any means doing anything malicious. I think he is genuinely thinking through everything, but at some point, you have to suffer the consequences of the action, and the action here was definitely a turn that took way too long. I guess the action here is a lack of action, right?
Yeah.
60 seconds before playing a card.
What does the time say right now? Can you check it? It's
Yeah,
about probably about a minute, 50 seconds to a minute
yeah,
for the first action to happen, it looks like, for the V. He ends up using his V star as the first action for the turn, and then
yes,
he plays pretty quickly from there.
he
But still,
does.
after, like, the previous turn of 45 seconds per action into nothing for 45 seconds, yeah, watching this for the first time, 'cause we analyzed it a little bit before we started recording, I think it probably should have been a double prize penalty there for Bradner. And there's, like, a lot of talk about that in the community in general, just like players playing too slow on stream. And there's, like, a decent comparison to make for Cal Connor, who also got a two prize penalty on stream, or
Yeah,
who got a two prize penalty on stream earlier. And Isaiah's overall back to back turns here, I think, was definitely more egregious than Cal Connor's. So I think one thing we definitely all agree we want to see is just some level of consistency across the board
yeah,
for all players. So yeah, I think if you held Bradner to Cal's standard on that previous
and
match, then it would have been a double prize penalty for Bradner for sure. But different different judges is probably the biggest thing that will
yeah.
always lead to, like, some varying degree, which we have to be acceptable of as the players. There is going to be a slight varying degree of rulings, but we just want it to be as close as possible.
Yeah, and it is tough too because it's like we want consistency, but at the same time we want nuance, right? And it's difficult for those two things to exist in the same space. We want judges to analyze situations and, escalate or de-escalate based on kind of the more unique things that are happening in the exact situation. But at the same time, Cal Connor's turn, like you said, we went back, you and I watched it before we started recording, that he got a double prize penalty for compared to the turn that Isaiah got a warning for. I mean, it was a
Into the
pretty big,
turn.
a pretty big difference.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, what would clear up all this stuff though would simply be like post-tournament article post from Pokemon articulating, penalties, some penalties that maybe happened and the ideas behind them, especially like big ones. There wasn't anything. I mean, the Ian Rob situation, I think it would be maybe decent to see a post from TPCI
Yeah.
about that one. But I think that one's pretty cut and dry, to be honest. At this point, I think as people have settled down, um, and come to their senses and realize, well, it was not a fist pump or a die rolling motion, and we've moved past that. I think most people are in agreement. The biggest thing to question is, um, what when should have happened. But if Pokemon came out and basically pointed to the rulings that they used to guide them to lead them to their decision in the moment, and maybe where they messed up or didn't mess up and where they're just following the rules, then that they have written, then that would be pretty some clarity for that for a lot of people in the community. I think would be a pretty good thing, to be honest. I think that'd be a pretty big thing to see. So that would still be good just for that, just for some sense of clarity of where they came to their determination from. I think would still be good, even though we've moved past it a little bit in general, I think, as a community overall. Um, but yeah, I mean, Bradner, this is not the first time people have called out Bradner for slow pace of play. It's going to catch him eventually if he doesn't, pick up his pace of play, I think, in general across the board. I think he knows that's probably something he's going to work on as a player, but yeah, it'll catch up to him eventually if he doesn't, adjust because he's got to start to be playing faster. I think in these two turns specifically, I don't think there's anything malicious going on either from Bradner's end. Like after watching through it and analyzing it, like I mentioned before we started recording, I don't think there's anything malicious here, but it doesn't matter, right? You can't take forever and leave your opponent with no time to play the game. That's just not how it works.
Yeah. Yeah, even if you're not intending to slow play, you are still playing slow.
Yeah. Yeah. And in this situation, I think it's definitely too slow. There should have been it should have led to a double prize penalty at the beginning of that second turn, I think.
Well, Azul, I think that clears up all the main controversies from Worlds that we wanted to talk about this week. If we missed anything, I'm sure we'll come back and talk about it next week. But, moving on from that, there were some pretty cool announcements that happened at the World Championships. And I guess the first one that we can talk about, I mean, new things at Worlds, announcements at Worlds, but also kind of new things debuting. And one of those things was the new TCG match overlay, which features, the player's active Pokemon. It features their benched cards. It says their attack names. It says their energy costs. It tells you what energies are attached to them. There's little animations that play whenever a Pokemon is KO'd, whenever a new Pokemon is being waited to be promoted. There are animations that play for special conditions. And this is a new overlay that was debuted at the World Championships. So I'm kind of curious as well as someone who, I mean, I didn't work on this project. I knew of its existence and knew that it was something that was coming soon. Um, but outside of knowing of its existence, I'm kind of curious what your perspective is as someone who's a viewer, fan of the game.
It's kind of cool. Can you actually like mouse over stuff on the overlay and interact with it on Twitch?
You cannot.
Oh, all right. I wasn't sure if you could do that or
I
not.
don't know if that's functionality that it could exist on Twitch or not, because
I think it could,
things
yeah,
adjust and change so fast.
could probably make it work with a browser with an extension. I'm sure you could. Like, cause have you ever seen the extensions that are Hearthstone and Magic streams?
No,
You can mouse over a card on Magic Arena while someone's playing it, and it'll make a pop up of it. It'll
that's
blow it
pretty
up.
good.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that happened with this at all or not. I wasn't sure
To my
if you're
knowledge,
on Twitch.
no.
Okay, well that'd be like the next level to it. It's interesting. Honestly, one thing that I miss is just being able to see the player's hands better. Though you can't. There's less player hands that you can see, so it's cool for someone like me. I don't need this extra information. I don't need this like the information put out in this way. If I just have the board, I can see what's going on. Maybe the only thing I wouldn't be able to see super well is like how much damage is on which Pokemon. But besides that, for me, I think it's overall a downgrade. But I think it is overall an upgrade for the general viewer experience. I have to imagine someone who's newer to the game or just coming in to try and understand the game, this is going to be a big upgrade for them to be able to see it laid out like this. I would have to imagine. So I think it's a plus overall, even if for me it is a minus. Um, one question someone asked me this, or I think I was talking to someone while we were watching the stream. Um, and I don't know if you know this or not, but is the overlay prepared for 8 bench Pokemon?
Yeah,
Uh,
they've got a plan.
They got a plan? Okay.
Mm.
That's good. I was wondering, yeah, because it's coming up. It's coming up
It
soon.
is coming up, yeah. Yeah, I think I
So,
mean, I don't know what I'm allowed to say or not say, so I'm not gonna say anything. I've
yeah, yeah,
seen
yeah.
it, I mean, it's a workable solution. It doesn't make just everything smaller, which I think would be a pretty bad solution.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, they've got something coming up for it.
Alright, good. Good to hear.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think so my, like, initial reaction because I saw, I've known of the existence of this for a little while now, and kind of my first reaction was just like excitement, right? That there's something unique like this being developed for the game, right? That
Yeah,
they're investing resources into it. But as I've watched it and kind of seen it play out, I would say mostly it did seem like the reactions were mostly positive, probably like 90% positive to it. And then like, probably just a small, very small percent people who didn't like it, and then a small percent of people who it's like they liked it, but they did miss like they had feedback about the things they missed. Player cams was one thing. Not being able to see the player's hands, like you mentioned, is definitely another thing.
yeah,
Um, yeah, and in my mind, there's 3 classes of people who would watch a Pokemon TCG tournament, okay? There's the people who are just general Pokemon fans who don't really know the rules of the Pokemon TCG. They may loosely know them, but they might not even know the basics of the rules of the game. Does this help that person to be more informed about what's going on and keep them interested in the stream? I don't know how much it helps them understand what's happening, right? Like if you don't know the rules of like an active Pokemon and what the energy cards do and stuff like that, I don't know how much it really helps you there. But I think at a minimum, it's a little easier to follow there because it's more entertaining to watch. You see the health bars drop down whenever a Pokemon gets KO'd. You get to see how much damage is kind of in play. It does add a little bit of context that you can't see because you can't see the cards, right? So I think it is generally helpful to that group of people. The next group of people, and probably the largest group of people that watch the stream, I actually don't know this for sure, but I would imagine this is probably the largest group, is people who know the rules of the game but don't know what every single card does, right?
yeah,
People who, maybe go to league once a month, they go to a pre-release whenever there's a new set coming out. They don't go to league at all. They just know the basic rules of the game, but they don't know what every single card does. And I could see this definitely being pretty helpful to those people, right? Because you can't look at this Mew EX on the bench and know what it does, right? But if you look right here, you're like, okay, it's got some sort of ability. Okay, it's got a 3 energy attack. Okay, it's got 180 HP. You'd like know so much more about the card than you did if you didn't have anything, right?
yeah,
But
yeah,
you can't see what the ability does, right? You can't see what the attack does. So I think like having a mouse over function, like what you were mentioning, is definitely something that could be is something that would be really beneficial there. Um, but I think this probably is overall pretty helpful to that class of person, right? And then the third group of people, which is probably the second biggest group of people, are the people who are super competitive, super follow the game, and know what every card does, right? And does this help that person? Not really at all, right? Because they
yeah.
are it's basically just displaying the same information 2 times on the screen.
The only thing that helps is, like, knowing how much damage is on everything, because sometimes you
Right.
can't tell how much what the dice are on, like, a bench Pokemon, how much damage is on it, if it had been hit earlier
In the game, yeah.
in the game, so, yeah, that is true. I think that all yeah, that makes sense. I think that all is basically spot on for sure. So, like, yeah, because like I said, like, this doesn't do anything for me, but it'll help other people, like, follow along a little bit better, um especially people who aren't as familiar with the game, but then you're, like, kind of in and out of the stream, you're not fully tuned in, it'll help you keep up a little bit more. But yeah, I just thought there was, like, a mouse over function where you could mouse over everything on Twitch, um, but that would be, like, a really big upgrade, so you could actually mouse over the Ursaluna's ability or just the card, like, if you mouse over its face, it would, like, pop up to the left of the space, the whole card would pop up and you could read everything, something like that, and I'm sure that can be done because, like, yeah, the Magic ones are, like, kind of insane. The Magic and Hearthstone ones are kind of insane. The Magic ones specifically because you can, like, mouse over cards on the board on Magic Arena while someone's playing Magic Arena, and then it, like, blows it up so you can see it bigger.
Well, I mean, if you're watching this and you watch the world stream or you've gone back and watched any of the games, feel free to drop some feedback or thoughts on the overlay in the comments. I definitely would like to collect those and pass them on to the people who can take that feedback and, make changes that are necessary because this is something that is still like kind of in active development. Like, I mean, it's the finished product, but like there obviously always gonna, like, be tweaking and adding things to it to improve it, I would say. So, yeah, please, yeah, definitely let us know what are things that you think would improve it. But, yeah, overall, I think it's, like, an exciting thing for the game, right? That new things like this are being, developed that are hopefully gonna get more people interested and, make the viewer experience better. Because, like, it's just the biggest issue with TCGs is just kinda, like, knowing what's going going on. You know, if you tune into like, you could, you know, be someone who's like, "Oh, I'm a Disney fan. Let me go check out a Lorcana live stream." And if you just click on it and you, like, know the basic rules, you're just gonna have no idea what's going on. You don't know what any of the cards do, or maybe you don't even know the rules themselves. So, yeah, it's definitely a true thing for Pokemon as well. Um,
Yeah.
And now we can talk about some of the announcements that happened at Worlds. At the closing ceremonies every year, they always do a bunch of announcements. And it was pretty TCG heavy in this one because there was kind of two big announcements. The first one being TCG Pocket set to release October 30th.
Yeah. So that's something that you did the beta on. I didn't have a chance to go over there. I didn't even like think about it, but if I had, I probably would have gone over there quickly to try it out. I'm sure assuming there wasn't like a massive line. Maybe there was.
Yeah, the very
Um,
first day there apparently was a massive line. Apparently the guy from Poke Beach was sitting there for an hour opening packs, trying to because they had some new cards that had not been revealed.
mhm. Trying to get
Uh,
all the
and so it was
details.
just, yeah, trying to get all the details, see all the new cards. So I think there was a pretty long line initially, but, yeah, eventually it did die down. Whenever I went up there, Ross and I went up there together and checked it out. There was no line. We, you know, we just walked right up. And they also gave us a bunch of these stickers, which is pretty sweet. The stickers of just the backs of the cards. I actually really like I like the current back of the card, obviously, like the iconic Pokemon trading card game back, right? But I don't know, it looks pretty good. The silver border, you know, can we see a back upgrade?
Does the Pokeball open correctly on
It
that one?
does open the correct way.
Wait, no, it doesn't. It's still
Yes, it
opening.
does.
Oh no, that is the correct way. That is the correct way. Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right.
I know.
You think they'll ever make a change?
Probably not.
Dude, it's so funny that the Pokeball opens incorrectly on the back of the card, and it's been that way for 27 years.
Yeah.
What is it? It's oh my
For
gosh.
anyone who doesn't know, if you look at the back of a Pokemon card, the Pokeball does not open properly. Like, normally, the white dot in the middle of the Pokeball should open with the red top. That's how it is in the anime. Um,
On the back of the Japanese cards, that's how it
on the
opens.
back of
That's
the
what it
Japanese
looks.
cards, that's what it does. But on the back of the US release cards, I don't know whose mistake this was. It has to have been Wizards of the Coast's mistake,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
for sure.
The red of the Pokeball is the part lifting up above the white dot. So is incorrect.
It's crazy. Insane, like, printing error that just they were like, "You know what? We're locked. Lock it in."
Fix it now.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm interested to see what Pocket I hope there's some kind of battle feature in Pocket. I want there to be because I wanna be able to, like, I don't know, I want some motivation to, like, actually try it out and, like, play it on stream and stuff, but there might not be. I actually don't know what it's
Yeah,
gonna end up being like.
there is some battle thing, and,
Do you like
like I said
battle
earlier, I was kinda disappointed that, this was just a pack opening display that they had, but
Did you do, like, the if you pulled, like, a really like, the full art cards, could you, like, do the zoom in-depth thing where you, like, go into the card basically or no?
yes, yes, animation played and everything. Yeah, it was really cool.
That's kinda cool then.
I
How
believe you can
big
go pre-save the game, which is pretty cool.
how big do you think is gonna be?
I mean, sky's the limit, honestly. I mean, I think it'll be bigger than any I think instantly it could be bigger than any other digital card game, pretty, like, within a year.
Oh, sure, yeah.
You know? I mean, it's just Pokemon's has the brand power that Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh! Do not have, right? I mean, and Duel Links and Master Duel were both pretty massive games for Yu-Gi-Oh! Right? Arena
Yeah.
is pretty big for Magic still. I think this will could I could definitely see this pretty easily within a few months of coming out being just like the number one trading card game app in the App Store.
Yeah, I could see it too, I guess.
It does depend on how good the game is and how much like, if it's just a pack opening simulator, right, it's not great.
A collecting
Um,
simulator.
collecting simulator, and it does seem like that's a big focus here. Um, you know, they showed the trading in the original trailer, but they did also show, like, the gameplay a little bit in the original trailer as well, so, there is gonna be matches and battles and stuff that you can have. Now will it be PvP? I don't know if we know that or not, or is it just like a, um will it be PvP or is it just like, battling the computer or something like that? I guess we don't know that necessarily yet.
Yeah, but we'll know soon. It's actually not that far away, right? It's about a month
Yeah, here's
or 2
a
months.
image of the game board.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
they
they
did
might
put out some more details. I saw Trust Your Pilot, I think, put something out.
yeah, my biggest question is, like, can you just, like is there, like, a ladder? You can just go on and play against random people.
Yeah, that'll be something yet to be seen. What did he tweet? Maybe I saw someone else tweet it. He tweeted here talking about there will be microtransactions, right? It does seem like that's going to be a part of this, which I don't think anyone should be too surprised by.
Yeah.
Um, I thought I saw someone tweet details of like how many cards could be in a deck. Um, because there is like the new thing of like the energy zone as well, right? It's not like you don't have energy cards in your deck. You have like a separate pool that you get energy from every single turn, which is more similar to like other card games. And there you don't set
Yeah.
out prize cards. You have prize markers, right? That you take away from whenever you take a knockout, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just yeah, definitely interesting to see how in depth the game is. So
Prize
if it's just kinda
points.
like if it's kinda just, like, not built for people to take it too seriously, we'll see.
Other announcements. A big one for TCG fans is the return of owners Pokemon. So kind of like a new gameplay mechanic. It's more just like a different classification of card
Yeah.
more than anything.
It's basically
I'd say
just
this is
like
like a little bit. I mean, this is like more similar to like when Ultra Beasts got revealed at Worlds, right? They were GX Pokemon. There wasn't
yeah.
really that much different about them. Like all their GX attacks had to do with prize cards, but that was about it, right? This is not quite on the same level as like the reveal of VMAX Pokemon or tag teams, which are things that have been revealed at Worlds in the past.
Yeah, so nothing huge. It's always nice to get, like, something bigger than this, but, like, it's fine. Like, as long as they're still, like I mean, as long as the game is still fun and enjoyable, it doesn't really matter too much, but not like a huge change up because they could have, like, literally probably not well, they're trying to, like, create synergies between the cards, right? Like, if the Grimmsnarl accelerates, what, 5 basic dark energy with its ability to other Marnie's Pokemon,
Yeah.
so, so it's just kinda creating labels for the cards to interact with each other instead of saying something like, "Accelerate 5 base or up to 5 basic dark energy to these specific list of Pokemon." It's like any Marnie's Pokemon, right?
And from a game design perspective as well, it's a way you can ensure unintended interactions don't come up, right?
Yeah.
Like if you limit Grimmsnarl to only attaching to Marnie's Pokemon, it's like, okay, this can't be used for some broken combo we didn't foresee happening, right?
Unless they just never stop printing Marnie's Pokemon. It's just like
But they always will have control over all the Marnie's Pokemon that
True,
exist,
true, true,
right?
true. It have to
And
be
then,
a
these have existed in the past, right? All the way back in the Wizards of the Coast days, Misty's Pokemon, Brock's Pokemon, Rocket's Pokemon as well, which is also something that was teased at
yeah.
the end, a potential Rocket set, maybe, with
Oh, is the
Rocket's Pokemon.
Mewtwo did the Mewtwo actually show up?
Yeah, I think it's just a flash like that.
Okay, so Team Rocket's Mewtwo is coming back almost for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess it's gonna be some more of the trainer Pokemon, the Rockets Pokemon will be
Kind of
coming back.
similar to Level X Pokemon.
Yeah, they were basically well, they were different because they were SP and trainer Pokemon.
Yes. Well, yeah, but
The
it's
trainer
like
part
they
didn't
don't
matter,
have
right?
Garchomp C is the name of the card. Garchomp doesn't have an owner, right? But Cynthia's on the card, but it's not like
Is
this
C
isn't
for
Cynthia's.
Cynthia?
C is for champion.
Oh.
There's Garchomp C. There was like Infernape E4, which was an Elite Four Pokemon,
Mm.
right?
I didn't even
Luxray
really realize that.
GL was gym leader Pokemon.
Oh, I see, I didn't know any of that.
Oh my gosh.
I just play with the card.
And then there are things as well, like in the past. Let me see. There's a good example here where cards are limited. Like, for example, here, Fluffy Berry is an old tool card, which was a tool that could be attached to a Pokemon that gave it 0 retreat cost, basically the same as Floatstone if you played back when Floatstone was a card. But it did have the caveat here Attach Leafy Berry to one of your Pokemon, excluding Pokemon EX and Pokemon that has Dark or an owner in its name.
Yeah.
So there is like the possibility for cards to like, similar to what we have now with like rule box Pokemon can't do XYZ. There could be things where it's like, owners Pokemon can't use XYZ card.
Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, they'll limit them probably a little bit because they probably will be on average more powerful than the average Pokemon. So they'll need to come out with some cards that don't quite interact or don't interact with them to give some of the other cards a chance. We'll see though, because like if we want to go through them specifically what they do, I'm sure most people know, but Zork's coming back, ends Zork with trade, discard a card from your hand, draw two. So Zorak with trade. It's got the Night Joker attack for 2 dark energy. Choose one of your benched ends Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. They only revealed one ends Pokemon besides the Zorak. And no, you can't Night Joker infinite loop to time out your opponent. That's not how it works.
TCG
Um,
Live might let you, but in the
oh,
actual game, you can't.
it breaks immediately when you do it on live because
Okay,
you can
okay.
do it with Regidrago or you can do it with some of the Mews and Regidrago things.
Good to know.
Um, yeah, it just breaks immediately and it goes to your opponent's next turn. So the only thing you can copy so far is Ends Reshiram, which doesn't seem terrible, right? 170. And then the Powerful Rage is probably the big attack here to have access to. 20 damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon. So if your Zoroark gets punched by the Grimmsnarl, which does like one Marnie's Grimmsnarl, that does 180, you can Powerful Rage back and 1-hit KO them. It's not bad.
Yeah, and for anyone who
Will we have Dark Patch when these things? Dark Patch rotates, right? 'Cause
Dark
this is
Patch will rotate, but I don't know if
yeah.
we know.
Well, this should be with rotation. The set should come out with rotation, probably, right? Theoretically.
Um,
Will it
yeah,
come
I
out
mean,
before
and for those who
EUIC?
don't know, I did see someone saying like, "Why is everyone freaking out about Zoroark?" Zoroark is perhaps the most iconic Pokemon in the TCG, and the best finishing one. Like if you look at Limitless and go to earnings, sort by earnings, Zoroark GX is number one. Now, Gardevoir
Ooh,
EX is creeping up
close.
behind it.
Wait, what? Wait, which Gardevoir is this? This is
Current Gardevoir EX.
oh, what the heck? Really? Why is this so close?
Because the prize pool is so much bigger now
That's
than it
true.
was
So,
back
alright, so
then.
Zork really doing the numbers, to be honest. Then
Yeah, Zoroark was massive, an extremely iconic card. Um, it was something that could be used in so many different strategies. It was used in control decks, it was used in attacking decks. Tord famously won 3 internationals with Zoroark decks. I think 3, is that right? No, 2. Yeah,
ooh,
just 2 internationals with Zoroark decks. And was very well known for using Zoroark as well. I think if you actually even look at his, page, yeah, his profile picture is Pokemon Trader with 4 Zoroark GX. He's holding 4 Zoroark GX in his banner. I mean, this card is iconic to the Pokemon TCG. So to see not only the ability trade come back, which trade does technically exist currently in the game. There's a Lipard that has the exact same ability and does the exact same thing.
everyone forgets
But
about the
for
live
it to be
partner.
on a Zoroark, a lot of people were just kind of excited.
Yeah, yeah, it's back. Will it be good? Probably. They're not going to print it with like all this stuff and probably have it not be good. Also, just like usually attacks that copy attacks are always good as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm sure there'll be enough different ends Pokemon that'll come out that'll make it good for sure. Maybe not immediately. Maybe it'll take a set or two. How did trainer Pokemon release in the past? Was it like all the Misty cards came out in one set, or was it like a multiple set?
There was multiple sets,
Yeah.
at least in
So
the
it's
old
something.
days. Yeah.
It might be something that ramps up a little bit, right? The first set might come out, but then 2 sets later of ends Pokemon, and then it's like cooking.
And then the other big one here, I mean, we can kind of skip over the Grim Snarl for now.
Oh,
It's
hold on. The Grimmsnarl's the big what? This thing accelerates 5 energy into play. This is Charizard
yeah, but
on
it only goes to
steroids.
Marnie's Pokemon.
Well, you don't know what the Marnie's Pokemon are.
Yeah, I know
Although
what Grim Snarl does.
someone pointed this out to me, I didn't realize this, but the Morgrim, it evolved from Marnie's Morgrim.
Yeah, and that's the same thing as well with Inzork. It evolves from Inz Zorua.
Yeah, so it has to be from. I didn't know that. Is that how previous trainer Pokemon worked,
Yes,
or
some of them at least.
okay, yeah. So the Morgrim and then theoretically the Impidimp will all be Marnie's Pokemon, so you can get all the energy in play with one Punk Up. But we don't know what other Marnie Pokemon there will be. Listen, all I'm saying that's like a lot of
It is a
energy.
lot of energy.
So it's a lot. And then we got the Shadow Bullet 180, 32 a bench Pokemon. To stage 2, 320. Like I don't know, this thing's kind of cooking to be honest.
Well, I mean, I saw a funny meme with the Lily's Clefairy. It was like, yes, we finally have the fourth legendary beast. Because, it's got the full moon rondo attack, 20 plus 20 more damage for each benched Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's. Of course, very similar to Lightning Rondo and Burning Rondo
Yeah.
and whatever Suicune's Rondo is.
This
Into
rondo, that
Suicune
rondo.
Raikou, Lily's Clefairy just fitting right in with those legendary Pokemon.
Yeah, and then it's the ability, which this is not for Regidrago because theoretically Regidrago rotates when this comes out, but the weakness of each of your opponent's dragon Pokemon in play is now weak to Psychic. So this is probably as a response to some of the dragon Pokemon we're getting in 2 sets from the Dragano set when we get
Yeah, I
that
mean
in
I mean,
Surging
there's
Sparks.
also, like, Raging Bolt, there's Dragapult EX, like, there's plenty of
Ooh,
good
there's other dragons.
dragons right now that'll
Well,
still be around after Regidrago.
I mean, I wouldn't say Dragapult's good.
Hold on, buddy, Crispin's coming out this next set. Just
Hold
wait,
on, we
dude,
got
just wait.
Crispin. Dude, yeah,
Crispin.
okay. You're gonna Crispin and then pass because you don't have a draw supporter.
No, I draw my cards with Drakloak, you know?
True, true, true. You're right. When you're right, you're right.
Um, yeah, I mean, this card will definitely just be good at some point in the game. Like, there's just no way it couldn't be, right?
I was
Dragon
just waiting.
Pokemon existing. This is a basic Pokemon that you can tech into any psychic deck to immediately hit those Pokemon for weakness. Like, it will almost definitely be
Yeah.
played at some
They
point.
are coming out with the Dragon Hate, to be honest, because in Surging Sparks, there's like a Black Kyurem EX that says if your opponent's active as a Dragon Pokemon, it's paralyzed
Yeah,
for three colorless energy. So they're prepping for something. The Dragon Pokemon are real. Does N have a lot of Dragon Pokemon?
just Reshiram and Zekrom.
Hmm. Could there be a Dragon Charizard? Wait, what is Dragon? Fireflying?
Or what is Charizard is fire flying, yes.
All right, never
But
mind.
Mega Charizard X was a dragon type, and with Pokemon Legends ZA, Mega Evolutions are going to come back into the game. So I don't know, will we get Megas back in the TCG as well? That'll be interesting to see.
Probably. Is that like? Will that be like our mid? Do we get like a mid-season mechanic? We do, right? Or how does it
Not
work
usually
usually?
something that big, but yeah, I mean, I guess it would have to be most likely
I mean, it could be
because
next year's though.
because Pokemon Legends ZA is supposed to come out quarter 1 next year, I think is what the announcement is.
Yeah. I mean, it still could be. Would it be that weird if we got it a year after? Is that weird?
Yes, I would say so.
Okay, so
Probably
maybe it
like
will
3
be.
months after.
All right, it's still possible for us to get it then.
Okay, all they've said is that it will come out in 2025. So it could be yeah, for some reason I thought it was something about quarter 1, but I guess that's not the case.
Yeah.
Uh so Legends ZA will probably actually be the game that comes out like Christmas time, like holiday time next year. So then that would line up for our next announcement to be Mega Pokemon returning potentially.
Ooh, okay, so it does line up, and they would be returning after the World Championships in Anaheim, which is where we're going next. And I thought this Worlds announcement was pretty funny because
They baited us, dude.
what do you mean?
Whenever they played the video, they were showing oranges and sunshine. I thought for sure it was Florida.
Oh, I didn't think
I
too hard
got
about it.
baited mega hard.
I didn't think too hard about it at all. And a lot of us kind of knew where we thought Worlds was going to be in 2026 because there was a leak earlier in the year and Pokemon was just like, screw it. It's already been leaked. Let's just announce it. So they announced 2 Worlds locations. They got it. What are they going to announce at the end of Anaheim Worlds then? I
Who
guess it'll just
knows?
be they can't announce Worlds, so it won't be as hype of a end ceremony to be honest. But yeah, it
They'll
basically already
find
got
something. They'll
leaked.
find something.
Yeah, it already got leaked earlier in the year, so, I respect Pokemon for this one, to be honest. They're just like, "Yup, everyone knows, let's just go ahead and announce it here, it's fine."
And a key thing as well with the announcement of the locations 2025 and 2026, Anaheim and San Francisco, respectively, they also already released the dates, which was a
Do you
big deal
think
for a lot of people this past year because it took Pokemon forever to announce the dates for this World
Yeah.
Championships.
Do you think they did that because the dates for San Francisco got leaked, and they're like, "Well, we can't give out the San Francisco dates without giving out the Anaheim dates." But also, if they know the dates, why would they wait as well? I guess, like, another thing, but they definitely knew the dates for Hawaii a lot sooner than they announced them, I assume. That's just
This
all
could
weird. I
definitely
don't
be like a
understand it.
reaction to what the bad feedback has been to the bad reception
Hopefully
has
that
been for them
is
taking so long.
that's the best case scenario, right? Is that they're like, "All right, we need to do better," and now they're doing better, right?
Yeah.
That's the best case scenario, I guess. Now this gives them now. I mean, they've already announced these things. Hopefully they have plenty of time to figure out the next one and then not release the date super late. So for 2027, you know, early dates again, please. I'm sure. I mean, I don't really care personally, but I know the rest of the community. It's something that most people want. So hopefully they get that together.
What did you think about people's reaction to this? Because there was definitely some people who were kind of upset by this.
I mean,
Some people were saying, "Oh, it's 3 US worlds in a row," which
true. It is. They weren't
it
wrong.
is, but, like, Hawaii, like,
Yeah, Hawaii
kind of
stands
counts.
out. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Hawaii is different. I feel like Hawaii is different for sure.
It was actually
Like
funny the whole weekend. I don't remember what the situation was, but Skarsgård was working backstage and he was saying something about like importing something back home. And I was like, you don't have to import anything. We are going from America to America.
Yeah, I think Hawaii definitely it's not it is America, but, like, come on, it's not like, it's definitely a change up, a switch up. You're on an island. So I would say back to back. We've got upcoming back to back American regionals. I guess, like, location-wise, it feels bad. It's like, why do they give all the American players everything so much closer? And Hawaii is closer to us than other people, of
And
course,
it is
but
also 2 California worlds in a row.
yeah. I think for me, this is an L. Like, I would rather go somewhere I've never been before, even if it's somewhere in the US, but I've been to most places in the US now, so it'd
Yeah,
have to be
2
out of
repeat
continent.
cities is another thing.
Yeah. I never went to oh, no, I went to both of these, actually. The one
Yeah,
I didn't go to was San Diego. I didn't go to San
Anaheim
Diego.
World was in 2017. That was my first World Championships, and San Francisco Worlds was in 2016, which was the first World Championships where like I was playing the game, so I was like watching that World Championships from home.
Yeah, they should have done San Diego, though. San Diego is better than Anaheim or San Francisco. That's probably my favorite city in California is San Diego.
San
So
Diego's pretty cool, yeah.
definitely an L there, but yeah, I mean, I understand I don't like it either that much, like, to me, it's like, whatever. I mean, I'm gonna probably be able to drive to both of these, and it's in my time zone, so, like, overall, in terms of convenience and just, like, being that much more comfortable for the tournament when it comes around, that's a plus for me, but I would still have preferred it to be somewhere else in the US, at least shake it up a little bit, like, maybe go to California and Orlando or something, do one each in those locations, or ideally, I would want them out of continent, and I definitely understand, like, especially, we've had it, like, I guess it feels bad, especially because, like, we got London, and then we went to Japan, and then went to Hawaii, which I think, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the location overall for how big Pokemon's gotten, but still, it's just somewhere different, somewhere more a little bit more exotic. And ever Anaheim, San Francisco, it's whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Less
I'm sure
exciting.
it may be a little bit more exciting for some of the newer non-American players. California is still a cool place to visit for people who don't live in America. I feel like more so. So
Yeah, Anaheim's got Disneyland, right?
yeah, that's true.
San Francisco is a pretty historic city as well.
Big bridge.
The big bridge, they've got a big bridge. Easy to get to from most of the Asian countries, right, compared to a lot of
Yeah,
other
good airport. I mean,
places.
good airports, right? Big
Yeah,
airports, big airports. So
yeah.
it'll be fine. Hopefully they spice it up though. Like we gotta wait out these 2 years and hopefully 2027 or 2017 or 2027. No, 2027. Geez, yeah, 2027 is like they bring it back, come back strong with something cool.
San Francisco Worlds is the 30th anniversary of Pokemon 2026.
Ooh,
So, I think that's probably a little disappointing for a 30th anniversary location.
yeah. You
But, maybe we'll get somewhere cool
think we're
2027.
you think we're still gonna be here for the 50th anniversary?
I don't know, man. Do you wanna be?
That's the big one. I don't know. I guess it depends what I'm doing. I maybe like I don't think I'll be playing at that point. Maybe I'll show up to Worlds to like hang out,
We'll be
see what's up.
in our 50s.
Yep. Still doing the podcast.
Still doing the
We're
podcast.
going back to San Francisco for the 50-year
Holy cow.
Pokemon World Championships anniversary.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I got no other plans. What about you?
Not as of right now, but something might come up. I'll get back to
Something
you.
might come up. He's not committing to 30 years from now or 20 years from now.
No, not yet. All right.
Well, let's move on to everyone's favorite segment of the podcast. But before we do, we've got to give a quick shout out and huge thanks to our fantastic sponsor, Dragon Shield, for supporting us here at the Uncommon Energy podcast. If you don't know, Dragon Shield makes some of the best card gaming and tabletop products on the market. We love them for the sleeves, something I'm excited for. So I'm planning to go to a pre release this weekend. Something that's pretty nice about Dragon Shields. They've got 100 sleeves in a box, right? I get to use 60 for a deck, 40 for a pre-release. So I've got,
Mm.
an extra box here that has 40 sleeves left in it of a color I used a while ago, Snows, that I think I'm going to use, which is a dual matte color, black on the front, white on the back. Looks pretty clean. Excited to give them a spin.
Is that how much? How many cards did you play in a pre-release deck? Is it 40?
40, yeah.
No, it's 40. I didn't even know. It's been
You
so
should
long
go to a
since the
pre.
pre-release.
What are the odds you go to a pre-release this weekend?
Like 0. I'm trying to get back into like streaming
Yeah, yeah,
consistently,
yeah,
getting the
yeah, yeah.
content down. So yeah, I have
What
a
sleeves
huge
did you use at Worlds?
rock the matte yellows. So I got some matte yellows on deck, so went with those. Served me well, and not much more they could do. Hit some rough matchups overall, but
Didn't even have to get a re-sleeve 8 rounds in.
yeah, no resleeve. I did not resleeve this time at all. But yeah, huge shout out to Dragon Shield, sponsored the podcast. Keeping me stocked for tournaments. You can use code UEPOD to get yourself 5% off. Directly support us here on the podcast. Up next, guess that flavor text this week. It's my turn to pick a card, read the flavor text on it, and then Chip gets to try and guess what Pokemon belongs to that card, that flavor text. If Chip gets it right without using any lifelines, Chip would get 4 points. For each lifeline used, -1 point. The lifelines are what set the card is from, what stage the card is, read an attack name. Currently, Chip is up only by 1 point, 25 to
Embarrassing.
24. You think you're going to be able to grow your lead here today, Chip?
I've got to.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Seeds on its tail are made out of toxic spores. It knocks out foes with quick, virtually invisible punches.
Hmm. I think it's just Breloom, most likely. It's got a big long tail. I think it's got seeds on its tail. It's a fighting type Pokemon. It does some punching. I could just lock in Breloom right away. One of my first thoughts as well was Sceptile, I will say, because it's got those kind of like golden orbs on its tail, or red orbs, I guess they are. But I don't know. I'm kind of feeling just a 4 point slam this week. Could use some lifelines to play it safe, but I don't know what I could get. I mean, I guess I could ask you what stage the card is. Uh, but getting 4 points would be pretty juicy here. I guess I'll use one single lifeline here, Azul. What stage is the card?
It is a stage 1.
All right, we're gonna lock in Breloom. Let's hear it. Breloom, 3 points for Chip.
It is Breloom Chip, dude. I read it and I was like, "Would this one be too easy for Chip to guess?" Like, no, I think this was like a middle of the road one where it's like it wouldn't be like super easy, but it's not like ridiculously difficult. So it'd be like be safe.
Let's go.
But
Easy
apparently that was not
buckets.
true. And Chip gets a 3-pointer. I was like, please at least use one lifeline. As soon as you were like locking it down, I was like, just use one, please.
Yeah, better play it safe than sorry. Protect the
Man,
lead. Which Breloom is it?
it is Temporal Forces.
Temporal Forces, the newest one.
Yeah, I think it's the. Oh no, there's 2 with silver borders actually, but
Yeah.
it is the newest one. Yeah,
Yeah, its attack is just punch.
yeah, it's that punch.
That's funny.
Well, I
Yeah.
don't know. Maybe I should have said Knuckle Impact. I mean, I don't know. Punch is probably better to
Well,
go
I
with
didn't
though.
give you a chance to say either, because I got it,
Yeah.
baby.
Dude, I did think about it for a second too. I was like, is this one too easy? But like for me, it wouldn't have been that easy. So I was like, well, like obviously I have to like up it a grade for you, but even then I was like, it shouldn't be that easy. But sheesh, it really was.
Simple as that,
Man,
buddy.
I guess.
Well,
All right.
maybe you
Well,
can tie it up next week with a 4 point spike, but honestly, I doubt it.
yeah. So there was actually a tournament at the World Championships this year, and Fernando Cifuentes took it all down with Iron Thorns. If we want to start there with just the players who ended up making top cut.
Yeah, I was
Um,
actually I did kind of want to start just talking about the meta
oh,
actually.
go ahead.
Because I think that that was a pretty big discussion point for a lot of people. because a lot of people were saying this was one of the least fun worlds metas that we've had in a long time.
It ended up being pretty polarizing around Reggie Drago, to be honest. Like more so than like I kind of realized as we were heading to the tournament, but it was like, yep, Reggie Drago's the best deck. It's the best deck. It's the best deck. And like a little bit more so than NAIC, everyone knew it, right? Because like Guardy kind of didn't exactly come out of nowhere. Because it seemed like all the best players, all the top players in the game, all the top groups like ended up on Guardy and like all realized, oh wait, Guardy's just the best deck. But this one was a little bit more apparent that Reggie Drago was the best deck. And, yeah, 24% of the meta, that's a lot.
It's
Definitely
quite
a
a
lot.
lot. Yeah, I mean, I think we predicted it to be 18. No, we
Yeah.
predicted it to be 16 on the podcast last week, and we thought Lugia was going to be number one at 18, and Lugia was all the way down to 12.6%.
Which is kind of a surprise. I thought Lugia would have picked up more steam because I feel like it's one of the few decks that can keep up, like, is advantage against Drago. But, um, maybe it's a little bit closer than I think. Everyone had Temple of Sinnoh. Like, every Drago player had Temple of Sinnoh, which of course helps. Um, I did pick up on a couple more cute lines with the mat in the matchup on the Drago side with more testing leading up to Worlds, like Kiram plays and stuff like that. But it still feels solid for Lugia. So I was definitely surprised by it being only 12%.
Charizard Pidgeot was 12%, right at what we predicted. Gardevoir down a little bit. It was at 9.6%. We did predict 12. Raging Bolt, we predicted 10. It was 9.3. Perhaps the biggest surprise here, though, Iron Thorns EX being the sixth most popular deck, making the graphic 5.5% and not too far behind it. Let me see. I think we've got the best of the
Had to
rest graphic as well. Snorlax was right behind it at
Yeah.
4.8%.
And is that what we predicted to be number 6? I think it probably was, right?
We predicted number six to be Dragapult at 5%.
Ooh, why did we do that? That sucks, bro. It's not even 2%. Good. Gosh. Why did we do that?
Yeah, that's a good
Um,
question.
yeah, definitely makes sense for Stall to be there. Yeah, the Iron Thorns thing is something that kind of just like came around as he got closer to the tournament because uh it's favored against the top 3 decks. It's favored against Drago, Charizard, Lugia, um, and then it kind of falls off from there. Your Raging Ball matchup is close as well, to be honest. You don't
I
have
think
much
Raging Bolt does
control.
pretty good against it, to be honest.
I don't know. You only get 3 energy a turn, if that, if you find a Sada. So you're not 1 hit KOing every single
Yeah.
turn.
If you're playing in
Um,
cups and stuff this coming up, I think Raging Bolt with Fluttermane is just a pretty good deck to play for the
yeah,
current meta.
seems decent for sure. But yeah, 5% Iron Thorns. Yeah, it was like ramping up as we got closer to the tournament. It seemed like it was on everyone's radar. It's one of the main reasons we wanted to include a second Mimikyu in our list was to hope that the Iron Thorns players only played 1 canceling Cologne, but at least Fernando did play 2 in the end. I don't know what the count was across the board. But yeah, Fernando took it all down with that Iron Thorns. And pretty interesting list. Super aggressive on the Gus, which is actually something when me and the squad were testing Thorns, something we kind of came to a conclusion on as well. Not we didn't get to the catchers, but we were playing the Prime catcher. We had like 4 boss Prime. We're like the legacy's great, but if you could just punch that thing 1 turn earlier more consistently, that'd be great. Yeah, but
Yeah.
Fernando went all out. 4 Pokemon catcher, only 3 boss. And that maybe is like the missing key for the deck. It's just more gust.
Yeah, I saw someone tweet something like, because every year after Worlds, they print the World Championship decks. And they said some kid for Christmas this year is going to get given the World Champion deck and then be so sad when they open it up and there's only 4 Pokemon in it and they're all the same Pokemon.
It is a pretty sad yeah, when you're getting into the game for the first time, having to play quad thorns. It's
Oh,
very much
man.
like a meta call deck for sure. Got 4
I
Crunchy
do
Hammer
think
and 4 Catcher, everyone's favorite cards.
that's one thing about the, tournament I guess we could talk about as well is the Worlds decks real quick. It's always kinda one of my favorite things to, like, speculate on, and I think it's pretty straightforward what the decks will be most likely. You got Fernando's, because what they try to do is they try to represent what the meta was at Worlds, and then they also want to represent each age division, right? So one deck
Yeah,
from each age division always gets printed, and I think it's pretty straightforward, right? You got Fernando here with the Iron Thorns, definitely. You've got Evan with the Reggie Drago Ogerpon. I would say definitely that was like the dominant deck. And
yeah.
then you've got Sakuya with the Roaring Moon,
Do they
Ancient
ever
Box deck.
do
So
they ever
those 3 I
reach
think are locked
deeper?
for sure.
Well, do they ever reach deeper into the juniors division and take the Lugia instead?
Well, I think because the Champions deck is unique, they will definitely print the Champions deck, I would
Okay,
say.
okay.
But
Then the
they
question
will
is,
reach into the top 4 sometimes. They have one time reached into the top 8.
do you think they're just gonna take the Roaring Moon, second place deck, or
So that is I think, one point of
and
contention because it would be Roaring Moon EX and then another Roaring Moon deck. So I
yeah,
think from a marketing perspective, there could be the argument for the 4th deck to be printed because I think those 3 are pretty straightforward, good choices.
yeah.
The champion of each division. I think Jesse Parker's Miraidon deck is probably the best bet to be the 4th deck printed.
Or maybe what about the Guardy, the second place
So that is a
Guardy that
possibility as well, and I did think about that. 2nd place Guardian Seniors could also be a choice, but Gardevoir was printed as a Worlds deck last year.
mm,
So I think
okay,
that could lead into the decision to maybe not print Gardevoir 2 years in a row. Now, they will do that if that is what they like. Like if Gardevoir had won, they probably would have done that, I think.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I think that the best 4 choices are the 3 champions plus Jesse Parker's Miraidon.
yeah, that'd be pretty cool. We'll see what they end up going with. I think one thing to shout out here, we're not gonna dig into the other, divisions results too much, but Gabriel Fernandez, top 4, further solidifying himself as maybe the greatest senior player of all time. He's got a couple more years left, right?
Yeah, I think 2 seasons left, which is pretty wild. Yeah. Ties the second best or ties the best follow-up performance to a world championship that at least I know about. Jeremy Marin won the world championships in 2005 in the Masters division and then got top 4 the following year in 2006.
And in juniors, I'm surprised we haven't seen like a more dominant back-to-back performance from the juniors or seniors. Is this the most dominant
Well, it's
back-to-back
because a
from a
lot of
senior
these
ever?
juniors, right? A lot of these juniors, they like get to their peak the last year, you know?
Yeah, yeah, of course. But I'm still it's still interesting that it feels like that would have happened before, like back-to-back world championships in the lower divisions. Because it's more likely to happen down there, I feel like for sure, but not yet.
Not yet, not yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, Fernando got the win with the Iron Thorns, and then the second place deck, another pretty under the radar deck. We actually took it off of our tier list. It was on the tier list. We took it off. Is Turbo Roaring Moon?
Yeah, maybe ended up being a little bit better of a play than we thought. And this is this is as straightforward as it gets, right? Like there's not much more turbo to be had.
Did you watch the finals?
Um, no, I watched the top 4 games only. I don't
I
remember what.
think that Sanosuke probably should have won,
Oh, really?
um, but never went to establish the Petrarunt as an attacker. It was like he didn't remember that Petrarunt was a good attacker in the matchup.
What's the best attacker?
Yeah, it
They
was
can draw
so
4 at the
odd.
end of the game.
Yeah.
That is definitely interesting. Yeah, because it is like one of your goals in the end game to actually set that thing
He
up.
never he never set up a Petrarunt.
Interesting. Was there an opportunity to like ever
Yes,
like
yes,
maybe a little bit of a mistake or understand a misunderstanding of the matchup for sure.
definitely
Didn't
possible.
recognize the Petron. It seems like a tough matchup in general though, because Roaring Moon can't one hit KO a Thorns unless you want to use Frenzy Gouging. So
Right.
you're kind of having like a 2-hit KO back and forth. But yeah, the Petron can come in at the end for 1 or 2 one-hit KOs to close it out. So that has to be the main focus from Fernando's. Whenever a Petron gets put on the board, you bring it up and you punch it. Um, so it can't go for a 4 prize sweep at the end. But yeah, this deck is so reliant on like Squawkabilly and Radiant Greninja and Pheasantipity to like play the
Yeah.
game that just shutting all that down, and then the fact that Roaring Moon, even when a fully set up Roaring Moon, full HP Roaring Moon gets to the active, it can't one hit KO unless you want to use Friendly Gouging, which means it gets one hit KO'd back. Definitely seems like a close matchup. But yeah, I didn't watch the finals at all.
And looking at the standings, it does look like Sanosuke did beat a roaring or a what's it called? A Thorns
Thorns.
in day 2.
Okay.
In the winning end, actually. Tom Hellcamp.
Did Tom have 4 catcher though?
Yeah. That is a good question. Let's take a look. Oh, that's brutal. 33rd place.
Ooh, losing the winning into
and no catchers.
No catchers. Was on the prime though.
Did have the prime and the four
Just
boss.
had to go further. You had to go one step further.
Yeah, it's so brutal, the pricing differential at Worlds. Like this last round, you win, you get into top 8, you lose, and you get nothing. You
Yeah,
get
I mean,
nothing. It's so brutal. I do think they should extend prizing for Worlds down to top 64. It's a smaller tournament, but like prizing is extended down to top 64 for the internationals. I
I
think
think moving forward, we might even be able to see them like extend it down all the way to fully day two. Like it's going to be so much smaller next year. Just like have all of day two get like a K or something.
I think that most people's mindset would be smaller would equal less for day 2, right?
Maybe.
Because, like, if there's only 64 people in day 2, for example, it feels like you're gonna be less likely to miss out on cash, right? Because 50% of people in day 2 make money, right? Whereas for this tournament, only a fourth of people in day 2 made money.
Sure, sure. Yeah. But I wouldn't hate to see them do that. Just like a K for day two at the very least and
Yeah.
then scale it up from there. We'll see. It's also like a big, you mentioned like that one specifically, but also like the top eight to top four difference is huge as well. Um, with like the
Yeah.
card and the trophy and all that.
Yeah, but the prize money, I think,
Big
is, like,
hit.
the main thing they look at there, and it's pretty I think the way that the prize money scales overall is pretty solid.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, of course, of course, of course.
but, but yeah,
Yeah, so
so
there
the
was a
go ahead.
as I mentioned, the 4 Reggie Dragos. I don't know if we wanna look at any lists specifically, but the Cleffa made an appearance in Raz's and Isaiah's lists. I don't think Ian or Michael played him, though. Um,
Yeah, that's correct.
yeah. So the Cleffa was something that was being included in the list. Also, Raz didn't play Radzard, which is interesting. No Radzard
Yeah, Michael
in the
didn't
list
have
from
it either,
Raz. Oh, really? Yeah, so two players without Radzard is interesting, actually.
which is crazy to me because that's, like, one of the best cards in the whole deck.
Yeah,
Raz
I mean,
did do something I really liked
it's kinda matchup
here.
specific, but
I really liked this from
go
Raz,
ahead.
the 8-2 split on the energy. I think Davidson
Yeah,
had
I
that
think
as
I like the 2
well.
fire as well.
No, he had 7-3.
If you like, you play I think playing 3 recovery cards yeah, if you play 3 recovery cards, I think 2 fire is just correct. You just don't need the extra fire. Maybe there's an argument because of the Radzard, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, so definitely some things to take away if you are a Reggie Drago enjoyer. Also, like Isaiah with the double super rod, no superior, which was interesting. I don't know, superior just feels like such a powerful card in the deck.
No
Just
Night
having more
Stretcher as
cards to
well, which a lot
discard
of
your
people
dragons with
played.
just always feels really, really good. Yeah. I think another list that's always worth going looking at, even though they didn't have as strong of a performance as they had in the past, would just be to go look at the list that the Australians played. Um, because you
Yeah,
know they're
Kaiwan
always
lost 2 winning
putting in the
ends.
time. Oh, really? For top
Yeah.
eight?
Yeah, he lost 2 winning ends to top 8.
Unlucky. Not sure about one Dragapult, but I don't hate the idea of it. And they were on the two fire as well.
Yep, did have the double superior. And then yeah, so there's 4 in top 8 for Reggie Dragos, and then, I would say probably the biggest surprise deck in top 8 was the Miraidon. I
Yeah.
is that a bigger surprise than the Roaring Moon? I guess that would be the question.
No, I think the Roaring Moon just kind of makes sense. It's kind of like it's like I'm gonna play Raging Bolt to counter Reggie Drago. It's like, well, what can you how can you go one step further than that and just playing a fast aggressive deck that just draws 2 prize cards, turn 1 going second. It's like, oh, play Roaring Moon. And Roaring Moon is like has the edge against the Raging Bolt deck as well.
Yeah.
So like you're like, oh, I can do the same thing against Reggie Drago. One of the things that does come up against Reggie Drago is they can do like the double Kieran play. So you do have to like remove their Dragos from play aggressively. But like if you go second and they have 1 Drago in play and you KO it, you should be safe. Even if they have 2, if you KO back to back Dragos, you're probably safe. So
Yeah.
it's hard for them to get that much out. But yeah, the and I really like the list from Jesse as well. I played it a little bit today on my stream. Super straightforward, super consistent. Big fan of it. I think it's probably the best way to play Miraidon by a lot. But Miraidon did pop up a little bit. I think Ryan Harris also played it right to top 16 finish. I think had a win in as
I think
well,
he
maybe.
also lost 2 winning ends.
Sheesh.
And that's
Um,
kinda just the merit of this, like, format now. Um, there's gonna be a lot of people who are, like, playing multiple win-ins in a row.
Yeah, yeah. It's gonna change up a little bit for sure. Um, and for the last one, we had James Goring with that Raging Bolt. So Raging Bolt did get there. So it's half of the decks in top eight ended up being Reggie Drago. The other half were decks that were built to specifically counter Reggie Drago or at least hope for a 50-50. Because we had the Moon, the Thorns, the Raging Bolt, which are all trying to be favored against Reggie Drago. Miraidon, I think, is like close. Like it's a close matchup against Reggie Drago. Um, but yeah, and this was pretty aggressive list. The catchers here. Like I said, and this is I think James did lose to the Roaring Moon in top eight, right?
He did, yeah. Probably
Yeah.
the one deck in top 8 he did not wanna see.
Yeah. It's like the more aggressive deck. It's like I'm trying to be aggressive to beat Reggie Drago. Roaring Moon's trying to be like more aggressive.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be worth mentioning Rahul as well, right? Did he we saw asymmetrical cut take place.
Yep, he did get
Rahul
top cut
was
technically.
yeah, so it was Rahul versus Davidson on the play-in. Is that what we're gonna call it? What should we call it? The play-in to top eight?
Yeah, I mean, it's the first top cut round, really.
What do we call it? Top
It was
16?
just it was just round 13 on
Top nine?
yeah.
Yeah, for the top
The
nine,
way
it
it
was
was the way it was done, like, in Tom, it was just round 13, and then the other 7 players got a bye.
oh, you know what I didn't like? They didn't play this round on stream.
Yeah, so I was
They
kinda surprised
started the
by that as
bracket.
well.
They just like the Rahul versus Davidson match was played on the side, like the normal tables, and then they start. What was the round they had on stream? It was Ian versus Fernando, I think.
Yeah, so
While Rahul and Davidson were playing.
the reason they did that, from what I understand, is, like, we were waiting on the stream, we were doing, like, we were setting up the top 8, talking about all the different players, talking about the decks and stuff like that, like, kind of cueing everyone into what was happening, and then, uh, the Michael Davidson versus Rahul match was happening, and then all these other top 4 matches were happening, or top 8 matches.
Yeah,
All the matches were being played except for, Jesse Parker was not playing, right, because he was waiting on Rahul versus Michael, and
yeah,
then the stream match was not playing, Fernando versus Ian. So the idea, I think, was meant to just be as seamless as possible once we didn't it was like once the play-in match is done, no matter what happens, because they already started before we started streaming Fernando versus Ian. So it's like as
yeah,
soon as Fernando versus Ian is done, boom, we are immediately able to go into the winner of 8 versus 9 versus Jesse immediately. And
yeah,
then because they are playing, this side of the bracket will have already moved on to top 4, right? So there will
yeah,
be
yeah.
no downtime for top 4. Immediately, boom, move into top 4. So I think that was the reasoning, and I don't hate the reasoning. I do dislike not getting to see 8 versus 9 play out, but I think
That would
that
have
the
been
reason
cool.
that they went this route does make sense.
I guess yeah, but if it was bigger, they probably would have showed. They would have had like a full extra round basically play, right? Like if there was three matches happening.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
That I think that was in the schedule that there would be, but if that had happened, they would have streamed, um, we would have only streamed 1 top 8 match. In this way, we streamed 2 top 8 matches, right?
Yeah, I think the play-in matches are just like as relevant, right? Like it just means as
I
much.
don't disagree, yeah.
If not more so, like that's like a bigger. And I don't want to say it's bigger, but it is like it is still just as
Yeah.
interesting.
I wasn't involved in
Um,
any of those discussions as to, like, which matches were being put on or anything like that. I was just told that this is what was happening.
okay, makes sense, makes sense. That's the only thing. It was like I expected, like I was at the venue and I was expecting the match to go on stream would be Davidson versus Rahul, but then it didn't happen. I was like super confused as to what was going
So
on.
let me something pretty funny happened because so we were doing our little pre-show and then I walked out to watch the rest of the top 8 matches playing and including the play-in match. And I walked by Davidson and Rahul's game. And I want you to so when I walked by their game, see if you can deduce how this happened. Rahul had a Ryko V on his bench with 190 damage on it, and then Michael KO'd it with Halucha. Okay. How did Ryko V get 190 damage on it?
An ogre palm punch it while it had a V guard. Wait,
Well, Ogre Palm
no, that one
doesn't get
added up.
reduced by V Guard.
Oh man.
We took we the casters We're talking forever about trying to figure out how this happened, and we finally
So
figured it out.
Raikou on the bench had 190.
It had 190 damage on it, and the matchup was, of course, Regidrago versus Lugia. So how did Raikou get exactly
Oh,
190 damage on it?
did it get Kyurem twice, but one time ahead of V-Guard?
No.
Uh, what other attackers exist in the deck? I think through it. Did no.
Do you wanna look at Michael's list?
Oh, is there something in here that'll tell me?
No, but, I
No.
mean, looking might make you
No.
it might make you think about it, you know? I don't know.
Um, I mean, was it just set up with Dragapult math? But that wouldn't be very interesting if that was the outcome. Like,
No.
um,
It was you want me to tell you?
let me think one more
Okay, okay,
second.
okay.
I don't know. What is it?
It was Squawkabilly hits for 20 with Motivate into a V guard on it, hit by either Phantom Dive or Rolling Iron, I don't remember which
Oh,
one, into
classic.
getting 190 damage. We were, like, sitting there like, "How the heck did we get to the point in the game?" So it must have just been, like, a scrappy early game, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Pretty
And then
funny.
the Hawlucha comes in clutch to close it
Jeez,
out.
microphone just fell.
Oh my gosh, Ship, come on, get it together.
You know, a couple of weeks ago, this thing was squeaking for a long time, and I finally went and got some WD-40 out of the shed and sprayed it down to loosen it up so it wouldn't be squeaking. And ever since then, I can't carry the arm past a certain point, and it just falls down. So honestly, I bought it myself.
You hit it with too much. All right.
Definitely.
So we had some predictions for cut. Oh, I guess I mean, should we mention Towards deck? There's a lot
Yeah,
going
I mean, I think there's a
on.
few other decks we can probably look at,
Oh, okay,
right?
okay. Yeah, go ahead. I didn't have anything else besides Swords deck, but if you saw another one out
Yeah,
there.
there was Towards deck, there was a Gardevoir, there was a Control in top 32.
Oh, what was the control? I didn't even realize there was that one there.
Yeah, let's start with Tord here. He did play Charizard Pidgeot, and this list is crazy.
Lots.
I wonder. So there was definitely a pivot at some point, right? For a long time, Tord was known for just like the maximum pure consistency of his decks, right?
Mhm.
Since that NAIC 2017, he had the 4 Tapu Lele. His deck was just extremely straightforward, 4 of copies of, like, everything important, and it was just, like, aiming to be as consistent as possible and always execute its game plan. But at some point in recent years, we've seen kind of a pivot from his deck building strategy, maybe just in the last year or so, where it's a lot more techs, a lot more options, and that's really what this one feels like. I mean, a super thin Charizard line, there's a Pidgeotto in here, there's a Rabska line,
Need the
in this
Rabsca.
Charizard deck.
I mean, you just gotta have the Rabsca.
You
No nest
definitely do need
balls,
the
no
Rabsca.
Rotom. I don't know. There's a lot going on. Yeah, it's true. So it's like power versus consistency. More options is more power, as long as they're actually good cards. And I guess that's what I mean, that's what he went for with this one. And what did he play at? I guess it's similar to what he played at NAIC, right? It was kind of powerful deck, Dragapult and Charizard and Pidgeot, the whole squad.
Yeah.
Went for something similar here, I guess. Power lines. Trying to think about but like his deck for EUIC was pretty straightforward. It was Charizard. It had the Yelchier stuff, but that was like tech for control more so than anything, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's yeah. I mean, it probably just depends on how he feels the format is, or where the tournaments, yeah, where the format's at right then, right? Um, Mix it up, but maybe he's like trying to challenge himself with deck building a little bit more, and like 'cause it's like it's easy to put 4 Trek and Shoes in a deck, right? It's a little bit harder to do something like this. Be interesting, or maybe just like where he feels like the meta's been at recently. It's just like it just has stacked up with these more wonky decks.
Yeah.
I mean, some of it has definitely been him just like remember there was that controversy earlier in the season. And he was like, "All right, that's it. I'm gonna play a faster deck." And then he played the Lost Zone deck with a bunch of 1/0s, and then he
Yeah,
played the
and like
Urshifu
Palkia
Charizard
or
Pidgeot deck.
Tina.
Yeah, so I think those things feel like he was doing it forced and not so much, "This is the best 60 I could ever bring to this tournament. I'm bringing it." It's just like, "All right, I'm doing this different thing to do something different." I don't know if that's still his thought process, like moving forward with these last couple choices, but it's definitely interesting.
Yeah. Then the highest finishing Gardevoir here is a pretty straightforward Gardevoir list, to be honest.
Yeah,
There's
just
really nothing super spicy in this. They did have Radiant
Normivore.
Greninja, which is apparently spicy in Gardevoir decks these days.
Dude, I don't get that. The card is still so good. I don't get it. Every time I play with the card, I'm putting it in play so I can win. I can actually play the game. But yeah, nothing crazy at all in here, right? Just the one Drifloon, one Charm, which is what most people have been doing leading up to the
Yeah.
tournament.
Klefki and Fluttermane, which is not abnormal either. And then there was a top 16 Chien Pao with the Palkia.
Yeah, from Lucas. There's no way he just didn't run insanely hot. Chiempo has to suck. There's just no possible way.
Holy
I remember talking.
cow.
I talked to him in the tournament at some point. I was like, "There's no way you're playing Chiempo." I was like, "Just gotta go first. Just gotta go first against Drago."
That's so funny.
Yeah,
Doesn't look like he played mini Dragon. I mean, I'm sure he did in day one, but
yeah. Beat some Raging Bolts. Beat a in the Charizard in the last round against William as well. There. Um,
well, yeah, which has always been a pretty solid matchup. I guess Dusknoir does make things a little interesting, which William
yeah,
and
you can
crew did
do,
have.
but no Manaphy. They had
Yeah.
that, which is definitely a pretty tough against Chien Pao. Yeah, the no Manaphy thing is interesting because like the Kyurem board wipe is not that good against Charizard because if you it's hard to get off early to begin with, or do you even want to get it off early is also a question. But then late game, Charizard builds up its board like out of range of like a really good Kyurem play, whereas like Guardy kind of can't. So the Kyurem play is always looming for Regidrago in the Guardy matchup, but it's different in the Charizard matchup, for sure. So it's just like pray to not get hit early. If they hit us, if you get hit early, hit him with an Iono and rebuild.
And then we had Alessandro here with his control deck. He
The
did have the
Genesect.
Genesect,
Let's
yes.
go. Finally making an appearance, bro. I was so hyped for that card. I put it in a single deck that I played with so far, which has been disappointing. Which has been disappointing.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just like pretty much all the good control cards in the format in this deck.
Yeah,
Almost a
basically it's
walls deck, it kind of feels like.
the Mimi, you got
Mimikyu,
the pawn.
Mimikyu, Ogerpon,
I
lock
mean, you
stuff
got
up with the water Ogerpon. Ursaluna can be a wall. It's got a lot of HP.
that stuff in here for sure. I just don't know. I just don't think the deck fares super. TM Devo as well, but no way to chain it. Oh no, we got the Roseanne's. All right, never mind. Roseanne's back up. Wait, we're looping it. All right, cool. Sounds good. Just Devo the Zards over and over again. They'll run out eventually.
I mean, they have a hard enough time against Mimikyu and Ogerpon, so I think that's
That's
got to
true.
be
That's
its
true.
hard game plan.
Got time. Well, we'll Devo them. I think we may as well. Go with their mon. Yeah. What is the Devo overly for then? I guess gotta be the Zard matchup, right? Or maybe I'm
Yeah.
trolling.
Just you just need to buy time, I think, often enough, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, those are kind of the big decks. There was a Golden Go in day two, a couple of them actually. I think, yeah, Kobe and
Yeah.
Cameron Kawasaki, the pair of brothers rolling up with the Dingus. That's pretty sick. Some ancient boxes as well. Diego Casiraga had a pretty good run. Did get
It
cut.
started off really well.
Yeah, he started off like 9-1 or something like that. I want to say 8-1 at least. 8-0-1 or what 7-0-7-1-1. Yeah, there you go.
Ooh, and then lost to the Maridon. Unfortunate.
Yeah. But yeah,
What
those
are I
the
think Harris
decks
played
from oh,
the
go ahead.
I think Harris played the future capsule though, which definitely makes a big difference in the ancient box matchup for Maridon.
Definitely.
They still have the tools, but it gives you like some possibility to get some hands two prize hits.
All right, like you were saying, Azul, we did have some predictions. So let's see how we did. First one was how many people would there be in top cut with the asymmetrical cut? You said 11. I said 12. We were both wrong. It was only 9.
Never lucky. Close though. The next one was, will someone have their first ever top cut at the World Championships? I said no. You said yes. The answer was, I think yes, because it might be Fernando's.
Yeah, I think it is Fernando's. James Goring had a top 4 back at Perth in 2017. Seinosuke doesn't have any top cuts, but did win. He's a first year master. Both of these finalists were like 17 years old. And he
Wait,
did
is this
win.
Fernando's? Well, I guess it wouldn't matter because they still have played tournaments in Masters.
They
Unlucky.
yeah, they still have played tournaments and masters. So it is both of their first top cuts in masters, but Seinosuke did win and get top 4, I think it was, at 2 Champions Leagues in seniors.
Okay. So it's been killing it.
Yeah.
over in the seniors division in Japan.
And I don't know about Fernando's accomplishments as a senior. So I think we got to go with yes for this one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we do, unfortunately. But yeah, but the rest of them all have top 8 finishes, right? Except for Davidson. Does Davidson not have a top 8?
Oh,
Davidson's
actually,
oh, no. Yeah, this is Davidson's first top 8.
yeah, he had a lot of top 16s. He
I
had an
swear
overall very
Davidson had
good
a top 8.
season.
Yeah, I thought Davidson had a top 8.
Yeah, I
I guess I
don't
was
think
wrong.
so.
We can't go wrong with your first one being Worlds, though, I guess.
It's pretty sick.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
And so 3 of them, 3 of the top 8 was their first top 8. Sheesh. I was
And
wrong on that one.
then next question was, where will the champion be from? Azul said Australia. I said the USA, but neither of us predicted Chile, which is where Fernando is from. Chile gets the win. And this was actually the first ever Chilean world champion from any age division in any game.
There we go. Put him on the map. Now you gotta defend it next year, though. That's what's up.
Our next one was how many Pheasantipity EX would there be in Top
One,
Cuts? I
two,
said
three, four,
4.
five, 6, 7.
Yeah, I said 6, you said 4. 6 was definitely the right way to go here.
7 would have been a little bit better. Actually, yeah, and even if you count Rahul, it was 8. But yeah, because like, oh wait, were we counting that? We were counting that, right?
We were
Asymmetrical.
counting it,
Yeah.
yeah.
So there was 8. There was 8 in cut. Man, that's a lot. Yeah, I only said 4, but every deck plays it. I mean, but yeah, as we got closer to Worlds, every deck was just playing. It's just a broken card.
Yeah.
It is one of the reasons I saw people kind of like discussing that. Like, Pheasantipity is one of the, I don't want to say problems, one of the reasons the meta has gotten so aggressive because it's such a good safety net.
Yeah.
Iono does not hit as hard. You have to be like so like if you're playing Guardy or Charizard, you have to be like so crafty now. You have to be like,
And
I'm an Iono you, but do I even want to draw prize cards this turn?
you used to be worried about putting a liability like that on your bench preemptively, but it doesn't matter if you have 2 Ogre Pawn on your bench that have the same
Yeah.
amount of HP, or a Squawkabilly, or a Mew that has less
Yeah,
HP, right?
very true. And then our last prediction was highest placing former champion, former world champion, Masters TCG. I picked Robin. You picked Estrada.
We
I'm
should have
not sure
picked
what.
Diego.
Yeah, it was Diego. I was, yeah, because I don't think Robin made day 2.
Robin got 144th, and Estrada got 890th.
Yeah, should have gone with Diego on that one. I think Robin lost the win, and I saw Robin on the last round, so but not quite able to pull it out. I'm gonna go with Diego next year. I should remind myself.
Well, Azul, I think that's it for our Worlds episode. Overall, final thoughts on Worlds. Did you enjoy the format? Do you think this is a retro format you'll go back and play at some point
It,
down the line if someone has decks?
it's a pretty mid format. It reminds me a lot of. Actually, I was talking to someone about this. It reminds me a lot of Anaheim when Gardevoir GX came out. And it kind of like the format became so warped around Gardevoir so quickly. It's kind of similar here with Reggie Drago. Um, yeah, it was like you either played a Garb deck or you played Gardevoir. You could not play anything else. There's a little bit more decks, but it's literally either play Reggie Drago or play an aggressive deck that beats Reggie Drago. It feels like, which is there might be more depth to it than that. Reggie Drago is just like such a good deck though. It has like no flaws, has no glaring weaknesses, and can be teched out to basically beat anything. So I've said that in the past though, so maybe I'm just wrong. I wouldn't mind being wrong, but pretty mid. I would say mid format overall. Congrats to Fernando on the dub. The thorns coming through. The meta call worked out, and yeah. But I'm excited for the next set. We're not too far away from that, but another world championships in the books.
Well, thanks a bunch to everyone for listening and for your support on the podcast. As always, if you do want to show that support, be sure to leave us a like, review, rating, comment, and subscribe. All those things help us out a ton. Check out the second YouTube channel, the Uncommon Energy channel. We got a brand new video out, and we should have another one up in just a couple weeks. And if you want to stay up to date with myself, Azul, and the podcast, the best place to do it is over on X. You can follow myself at Chip Ritchie, Azul at Azul_GG, and you can follow the podcast at Uncommon_Energy.
Yeah. Catch y'all next week. Appreciate the support as always. 7 a.m. Eastern on Wednesday.